This blue sphere possesses an incredible power. When you put it into the bathtub while taking a bath, by the time you come out of the bathroom, you will have transformed into the way you looked in your previous life. Some people turned into a dog after taking a bath, but after this man finished bathing, he turned into a top-tier beauty. Ever since he was little, his grandmother had always told the boy that a person must never lose their original appearance. Whatever form you are born with is the form you should live your life in. So even when he wanted to get plastic surgery, his grandmother never agreed. Who would have thought that ever since I was young, I envied the celebrities on TV, but every time I brought them up, they would sneer at me, perhaps because of the way I looked. I remember that when I was little, I once watched a music program with my older brother. There was one person on it who instantly caught my eye. Although her appearance was not more striking than the others around her, she carried an aura that was in no way inferior, as if declaring that she alone was the ruler of that stage. Every time I saw her perform, I would stare without blinking. I even told my brother that I wanted to become an entertainer too. During a talent show before, my brother said I was quite talented, but then he also said that my face wouldn't cut it unless I waited until my next life to try. Even now, I am still not handsome enough. Whenever I mention plastic surgery, my grandmother says strange things. Thinking about it carefully, appearance doesn't seem all that important because what attracted me to my idol was never just looks. I have to work hard to find an opportunity that belongs to me. I kept sending out resumes and going to auditions. Sooner or later, some talent scout would recognize the potential in me. My name is Jim Sang-beep. I am 20 years old this year, and I ask for your kind support. I can't even remember how many times I have said those words, nor do I know how many auditions I have attended. If that assault incident had not happened that year, my face would not have been injured either. Before I knew it, I had walked to my grandmother's fortune-telling shop. I hadn't seen my grandmother in a long time, and I also happened to want to eat the food she made. I walked into the room and did not see my grandmother. Only a woman standing at the door. "Are you a customer at the shop?" She turned around and glanced at me. "Are you Jim Sang-beep?" I looked at her in confusion. How did she know my name? After confirming who I was, she seemed very happy. Standing beside me, she kept looking me up and down. "You've grown so tall. I used to be a regular customer here. After I started working, I stopped coming often, but I still keep in touch with your grandmother occasionally. She often talks about you. Your grandmother just went out and I actually came to see you. Since you're here, I'll just tell you directly. Do you have time now?" I didn't know her at all, so what could she possibly want with me? Then she pulled out a business card and handed it to me, inviting me to visit her company. When I saw what was written on the card, I felt like I was dreaming. She was Han Yu-yun, the operations director of Parang Entertainment. As far as I knew, it was a large entertainment company. So I led her to the tea table beside the fortune-telling shop and told her about my audition experiences. During that time, I had been selected by some small companies, but only as a trainee for a period of training, and then my debut would be canceled right before it happened. At that moment, she actually mocked me, saying I had basically been fired. She even knew that I had bullied someone back when I was in school. That happened in high school. After receiving disciplinary punishment, I dropped out. It was a dark part of my past. How did she know all this? My grandmother could not possibly have told customers these things. So, had she investigated me? She even blamed me for not telling her about these things in advance. I was wondering, since she clearly knew all of this, why was she still talking to me? Then she said she planned to bring me into the company as a trainee. When I heard that, I froze on the spot. I only needed to pass a simple test. Right after that, she took me to a hotel. Wasn't it supposed to be a test? Wasn't it supposed to mean an audition? Why did she bring me to a hotel? And why did she book a short stay room for 2 people? Could her identity be fake? I suddenly felt that this woman was very dangerous. I began to regret coming here with her. At that moment, I even wanted to run away, but I still braced myself and followed her into the room. She opened her bag and started searching through it. At that moment, she took out a blue ball. She said it was a bath bomb and told me to go take a bath and to put it into the bathtub while bathing. I stared at her in shock. Wasn't this supposed to be about singing or dancing? Why did I have to take a bath? She told me that it was harmless to the body. I looked at her in disbelief. What exactly was she trying to do? "If you're unwilling, you can go home right now. Looking at you, it doesn't seem like you're that desperate to become an idol." I felt like she was deliberately provoking me, using reverse psychology on me. I suddenly snatched the bath bomb from her hand. Then I opened the bathroom door and prepared to go in. At that moment, she sat on the bed and told me that every part of me, from head to toe, had to get completely soaked. I turned on the faucet in the bathroom and decided to do as she said first. Given my current situation, I had no right to be picky. Even if she really was a scammer, so what? I had already grown used to the feeling of disappointment. If someone was willing to give a person like me a chance, then I was willing to do anything. Just then, Han Yu-yun's phone suddenly rang. It was a call from her boss. What happened? Did I fall asleep while soaking in the bath? It was obviously just a bath, but it felt as if a long time had passed. I lowered my head and glanced at my hands, only to find that my skin had become unusually delicate, and my shoulders somehow felt heavy. Could this be the effect of the bath additive? Then I walked over to the mirror. In the mirror, there appeared a long-haired beauty. I stared at the mirror in disbelief. Who is this? Han Yu-yun, who was sitting on the bed, noticed that I had still not come out after a long time, and began urging me. I opened the bathroom door and walked up to her. When Han Yu-yeon saw what I looked like, she was clearly startled. I rushed forward and grabbed her by the collar. I angrily demanded to know what she had done to my body. Didn't you say it wasn't anything strange? Looking like this now, anyone who saw me would think I was a woman. She quickly waved her hands and said that she was a little flustered too and needed to sort out the current situation first. At that moment, I was trembling with rage. Let me explain it to you from the beginning. The bath bomb I gave you has a function. It makes a person turn back into the way they looked in their previous life. And I only taught you how to use it according to what someone else told me. Has no one ever told you that you were a beauty in your previous life? At that moment, I was truly furious. Was she joking with me? But it did seem like someone had actually said that I had been a beauty in my previous life. I remembered that when I was little, my grandmother said that this face of mine was not the kind that could appear on television. But if it had been in my previous life, this face of mine would have been quite suitable for seducing others. At the time, I thought my grandmother was joking with me. I even said she had senile dementia, that her fortune-telling was getting worse and worse, and that she might as well close the shop. I could not help asking Han Yu-yeon, did my grandmother tell you these things? What exactly is your relationship? Why would she tell you so much? But right now, hurry up and change me back to the way I was. I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life. At that moment, she moved closer to me and told me not to worry, that there would definitely be a way to change back. She suddenly came so close and kept staring at me intently that my heart would not stop trembling. Your looks are far too beautiful. They completely exceed my imagination. Among everyone I've seen so far, your visuals are definitely top tier. Hearing that, I was so shocked I almost blacked out. Even more outrageous, she actually said I had passed the test and wanted me to enter her company in this form. Under my strong insistence, she took out a box. She told me that the red one would let me change back to my original form, but she told me to think carefully first about whether I wanted to go to their company. Before leaving, she also said she was very satisfied with me and hoped to see me again next time. After she left, I thought I should hurry and fill the bathtub with water first. Just then, the room phone suddenly rang, and it turned out that it was already time to check out. At that moment, I felt like the sky was falling. I walked down the street in a sorry state, searching everywhere for a place with a bathtub. All of a sudden, I thought of my grandmother. I felt that she probably knew something, but when I arrived at the shop entrance, no one answered my grandmother's phone. The woman next door told me that my grandmother had gone away on a business trip. As for exactly when she would return, she did not know either. She only knew that my grandmother had gone to the countryside, where there was no phone signal at all. There was no other way, so I could only go home first. However, lying in bed, I could not sleep at all and could only keep scrolling through my phone. Right now, I desperately needed a bathtub, one I could soak my whole body into. At that moment, my mind was in complete chaos. I did not even dare to look at my lower body. With this body as it was now, there was no way to prove that I was Jim Sang-beep. This was just too ridiculous. It felt exactly like a dream. Could it be that if I went to sleep and woke up, I would return to normal? But who would have known that the next second, I suddenly really needed to go to the bathroom. I simply could not hold it anymore, and in the end I had no choice but to face reality. Early the next morning, the first thing I thought of was seeing Han Yu-yeon as soon as possible. When I appeared in front of her, she was so shocked that she could not say a word. At that time, I looked as miserable as a beggar. As she led me upstairs, I looked around at my surroundings. I never imagined that one day I would actually walk into such a large entertainment company. Han Yu-yeon found me a tracksuit. When I put it on, I found that it fit surprisingly well. Seeing the logo printed on the clothes, I even had the feeling that I had really become a trainee at this company. Then she brought me to the president's office. Inside the office sat a middle-aged man in a white shirt, and he also knew my name. The moment I saw him, I was shocked to realize that he was Oh Baek-jun. He was a legendary first-generation idol, and he had also founded his own entertainment company. He told me that the subsidiary of Paring Entertainment was the one he had founded. And on top of that, there was a major corporation backing it. I suddenly remembered that the company logo really had been printed on Han Yu-yeon's business card. Han Yu-yeon actually wanted me to start directly as a trainee, without even needing an audition. Oh Baek-jun also told me that he had already watched the videos I had sent to other companies. He also said that I was very lucky this time. It turned out that the previous life medicine I had used did not work on just anyone. It only had an effect on people with a special constitution. That was the red package Han Yu-yeon had given me. At that moment, I suddenly remembered the story my grandmother had once told me about Bear's Spirit Mountain. Oh Baek-jun told me that the company's first girl group needed some outstanding trainees. But I was clearly a man. Only my body had turned into a woman's. How could I possibly cooperate with him and become a female artist? Besides, the paths pursued by male idols and female idols were different to begin with. He asked me what the most important requirement for becoming an idol was. I thought it was skill or character. Of course, luck was also very important. I have lived this long, Yet I have never seen an industry more capable of taking someone back and forth between heaven and hell in a single second. Companies had wanted to sign me before as well, but in the end they all rejected me because of the dark history of me bullying others during my school days. Oh Baek-jun told me clearly that if I were the original me, he would not choose me either. And if it were, as Jim sang beep, it would be even more impossible. He wanted me to think carefully about whether I wanted to keep living as a bully no one was willing to accept, or start over using this body I have now. And this man, after taking a bath, turned into a top-tier beauty. I remember that when I was little, I once asked my older brother to secretly help me sign up for a music training class. But my brother thought it was something shameful, while I thought that not even being able to afford classes was even more shameful. I even blamed my grandmother for spending all day doing that kind of thing involving dealings with wandering spirits, and as a result I got beaten up by my brother instead. Seeing my brother clench his fist, I immediately wrapped both hands around my head. I knew that in the end, my brother would definitely help me. The next day at school, the first person I went to find was In Seo-young. I remembered that last time In Seo-young asked me to help guide their dance club a little, but he was worried that I would be busy after going to training classes, so he said I only needed to give them a bit of guidance. After all, unlike me, they did not want to become idols, they were only treating it as a hobby. Just then, Jagun Han behind me began mocking me, saying that I could not wait for everyone to know that I wanted to become an idol. But I was not someone easy to mess with either. How great did he think he was, acting all high and mighty every single day? Jagun Han was left speechless for a moment by my retort. Then he said that unlike me, he would not waste time on something impossible, but people like him, born with a silver spoon, were different from me to begin with. In the afternoon, I came to the audition site for the dance club on the second floor. The interviewer thought I was a member of the dance club, and I told him that I was not an official member, only someone who had briefly guided them. One of the female interviewers said that I had good potential to become a coach, and asked whether I had ever thought about developing in that direction. I told her that the path of being an idol suited me better. Then the interviewers asked me whether among the juniors I had guided, there was anyone with good potential. Right after that, I was preparing to show them the talent I had prepared, but while I was going to get ready, I heard them seeming to talk about me. Before they had even seen what I could do, they had already started putting me down, saying my legs were short and that I looked shifty. All along, I had never cared about what others said. I always firmly believed that this path suited me best, but recently I had started to feel anxious. The older I got, the harder it became to pass auditions. My phone received another message saying I had failed an audition, and the classmate behind me asked whether I had skipped school the day before yesterday to go to another audition again. My classmate Jagun Han leaned toward me with a malicious grin. Before I could react, he suddenly snatched my phone away and mocked me for becoming so lacking in confidence. Even worse, he actually started going through what was on my phone. I instantly became irritable and furious. The next second, Jagun Han pressed down on my head with one hand. After failing your own audition, you're actually taking it out on an innocent person. Anyone with eyes can see it. You're the only one who has never faced reality. At your age, don't you feel sorry for your parents? Before he could even finish speaking, I had already started fighting with him. Even though my eye was injured, in the end, I still had to pay compensation to the other party. The teacher told me that the other party's nose bridge had been broken and said that the physical pain he suffered was even worse than the emotional damage. I did not know what background that person had, but apparently even the teacher felt the matter was difficult to handle. When I saw the medical expense statement, I froze instantly. After my grandmother found out about this, she even took out the money she had saved for her surgery to pay the compensation. But this matter still could not simply end there. I lowered my head, feeling especially sorry toward my grandmother. Don't be so downcast. This wasn't your fault. But after arriving at school, In Seo-young also blamed me, asking why I could not endure it a little longer. They all knew what that guy was usually like toward me, because I had always been submissive. The moment I resisted even once, everyone blamed me. But what In Seo-young meant was that for the sake of my future, I should have been more careful. I froze for a moment. Why couldn't I live like those people who feared nothing? Was it really my fault? Because of that guy's provocation, not only was all of my family's savings spent, but even all the effort I had made over the years came to nothing. At that moment, I felt deeply guilty. It was already too late even for regret. Even after the compensation was paid, it seemed that the matter still had no intention of ending. All kinds of rumors kept spreading, and in the end they became more and more unfavorable to me. By the time I decided to drop out, I had already been painted at school as a delinquent. From that point on, even entertainment companies threw me out. Just as I was hesitating over whether I should give up, In Seo-young sent me a message. It turned out that I was always the one no one had faith in. Could it be that my dream, like some kind of joke, was going to end before it had even begun? Looking at Oh Baek-jun in front of me, I no longer wanted to be like I was before. I wanted to work hard to fulfill my dream. Right now, I still do not know whether I can do everything well with this body, but I will definitely do my absolute best. Afterward, Han Yu-yeon showed me around the company. But there was one thing I had been curious about from the very beginning. Why do they have my personal information? Just then, she brought me to the room for the female trainees. If you were a man, you would not be allowed to enter. Then, covering her mouth as she laughed, She told me not to use becoming a woman as a chance to secretly experience any strange kind of pleasure. I was so startled that I completely froze. Even now, I still had not adapted to this body. Especially every time I opened my mouth and a girl's voice came out, I still could not accept it. You had better adapt as quickly as possible because as you are now, you can no longer go to the men's area. The fact that I was a man was known only to Han Yu-yeon and Oh Baek-jun, and yet I still had to pretend that I was also a woman among all these girls. Han Yu-yeon received a phone call at that moment, and then she left, telling me to wait for her first in the lobby on the first floor. Standing there in place, I looked at the unfamiliar surroundings. Actually, I should have expected this situation long ago. I glanced at the room in front of me and saw several girls practicing inside. But just then, I remembered that Han Yu-yeon had said this was a men-forbidden area. I began to hesitate over whether I should go in and take a look. After finishing the phone call, Han Yu-yeon went to the boss's office. The boss took out a file and asked her to confirm it. When Han Yu-yeon saw what was in the file, she froze. There was actually a girl here who had gone to the same high school as me and was now also a trainee here. This is bad. This is really bad. I actually ran into Bok So Ae at the company. Just now, I noticed a girl in the room who looked strangely familiar, so I walked up to her to make sure. Bok So Ae, why are you here? The girl looked at me in surprise. Who are you? How do you know my name? The next second, I suddenly remembered that I was currently in a girl's body. I quickly turned and ran. Why was she here? When I looked up, I realized I had already run to the elevator and Han Yu-yeon was standing there waiting for me. So I stepped into the elevator. Just as I was about to press the close door button, Han Yu-yeon suddenly lowered her voice and asked me, "What is your relationship with So Ae? And why do you know her name?" A cold sweat instantly broke out all over me, and I had no idea how to respond. Han Yu-yeon said, "I thought you and So Ae were dating." I suddenly turned back. She's just a junior I know. I had only heard that she joined an entertainment company, but I never expected her to be here. And she should know me too, because back then, there was practically no one at school who didn't know about the bullying rumors. At this moment, I was panicking like crazy. What if she found out? Han Yu-yeon stared at me blankly. "Why are you worrying about that? Looking like this now, would she ever connect you with Jim Sangbi? I don't think you'd be found out even by the time you die." Only then did I realize that both my appearance and gender had already completely changed. Right after that, Han Yu-yeon reminded me that judging by what I had just done, the other person had definitely already taken me for a weirdo. After saying that, she turned around and was about to take me somewhere else. But my mind was a mess right now, and I didn't want to go anywhere. I just wanted to go home first. Sitting on the bus, I kept telling myself that before training officially began, I had to adapt to this body as soon as possible, and that I still knew absolutely nothing about my current self. Just as I was looking out at the scenery through the window, the two people across from me were staring at me curiously, and it seemed like the people behind me were whispering about me too. At that moment, all I felt was the heavy weight on my chest, and my body kept wanting to bend forward. After returning home, I immediately bought suitable clothes and shoes online. When the little delivery girl saw me, she was suddenly startled. Then she smiled and handed the clothes to me, and even gave me a discount of 10,000 won. After returning to my room, I stayed dazed for a long time. So this is the power of being beautiful? It was something I had never experienced before. Even the part-time clerk at the convenience store downstairs, who had never greeted me before, had completely changed his attitude. He even said that the things I bought happened to be on a buy one get one free deal. I walked into the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. This face really was excessively beautiful. So I lifted my shirt, wanting to take a closer look again, and at that moment I hesitated a little. But then I thought, I'd have to take my clothes off later anyway when I showered. After taking off my clothes, I realized this body was unbelievably good, and I just stood there blankly staring at it for more than 10 minutes. The next morning, I opened my eyes groggily, as if I were in a dream, feeling that something was off. I suddenly sat bolt upright and threw back the blanket to check. Only then did I truly realize that I was already a girl now. Adapting to this body in such a short time was indeed far too hard. Startled by myself, I sat on the bed for quite a while trying to calm down. Today was my first day officially reporting to the company. A girl wearing glasses came to the door, holding some documents to meet me. At that moment, I was facing the mirror, carefully admiring this face that I could never get tired of looking at. The girl suddenly greeted me, and I, completely absorbed in looking at myself in the mirror, was startled out of my wits. It turned out she was Yoon Ju-yeon, the leader of the rookie development team, and she kept praising me for being pretty. She told me that I didn't need rookie training and could start classes right away. The moment she opened the door, I froze completely. There were so many girls in the room, all noisy and bustling about, some practicing, some chatting. I saw a girl in red leaning against the mirror, muttering something under her breath. Then she said to the person next to her that someone would be eliminated in the end-of-month evaluation, and of course new people would come in to fill that spot. Bok So-ae was also in this room, and she had already seen me. Ju-yeon walked into the room and asked everyone to quiet down first. Then she introduced me to everyone. "This is our new member." At that moment, I glanced nervously at Bok So-ae. As long as she didn't recognize me by my appearance, it should be fine, right? Fortunately, Han Yu-yeon had prepared a new identity for me in advance. She not only gave me a new name, but also made a new personal profile for me. I forced myself to stay calm and greeted them. My name is Han Yao-e, and at that very moment, everyone's eyes focused on me. They even said I was the prettiest among the trainees right now. At that moment, Yoon Ju-yeon suggested that I show everyone a talent. I turned my head and looked at her with a pleading expression. With so many people staring at me at once, I suddenly felt so much pressure. But when it came to dancing, I was actually quite confident. Back in school, I had not only instructed the dance club, but was also a top student at the training academy. This was also a good chance to confirm whether Bok So-ae could recognize me or not. Even though my appearance had changed, inside I was still Jim saying beep. Right after that, I raised my hand and started dancing to the beat. When the people there saw it, they couldn't help but praise me. But just then, I suddenly heard a strange sound from one of my joints. A tearing pain shot through my ankle. It instantly made me lose my balance, and I fell to the floor with a thud. Everyone present was dumbfounded at the sight. I awkwardly lifted my head while supporting myself on the floor, my whole body frozen in place. Cold sweat slid down my cheeks. At that moment, my face was full of shock and panic. I had never imagined that I, who was good at dancing, would actually fall down. When I looked up at them, I realized they were actually laughing at me. Just then, Yoon Ju-yeon came forward and helped me up, and at the same time, they were whispering among themselves, saying I was treating my body like a joke. To ease the awkwardness, Yoon Ju-yeon smiled and said to everyone, "Let's start rehearsal. Everyone do your best today too." The daily practice schedule was packed full, with individual training in the morning and group rehearsals in the afternoon. I stood in the corner by the wall, warming up while thinking that what had happened earlier had been utterly humiliating. It had to be because I was too nervous on the first day of training. With my actual skill, I shouldn't have had a problem. At that moment, a beautiful woman dressed in black walked straight toward me. It turned out she was the dance teacher, Jim Jarin. Apparently, she had heard from somewhere that I had attended training classes for a long time, so she asked me to show her something on the spot. I swung my stiff arms and barely managed to perform a short piece for her. She looked obviously shocked. Then she lowered her head and looked at my resume, suspecting that there was a mistake in it. Just then, she called over teacher Ho Jun, who happened to be passing by. "This is the new trainee. Please teach her isolation control in the corner." In other words, I had to start learning again from the basics. Like that, I practiced over and over again for 10 minutes, and only then did I finally earn 1 minute of rest. Covered in sweat, I was gasping for breath in huge gulps. Even though I had only practiced for 10 minutes, I was already panting hard. I could hardly believe that this body could actually be this weak. After switching bodies, everything really did feel strange in every way. At noon, Han Yu-yeon called me and asked how my morning practice had gone. But on my end of the call, I stammered and only wanted to meet her first. Right after that, I went to her office and dejectedly told her what had happened that morning. Han Yu-yeon looked at me and analyzed that there were probably two possibilities. One possibility was that I still didn't know how to control this new body and hadn't found the right feel for it yet. The other was that in my previous life, I had never danced at all and was a complete and utter hopeless dancer. Hearing that, I looked utterly incredulous. Seeing how anxious I was, Han Yu-yeon stepped forward to comfort me, saying that this was only the first day and that I just needed to start figuring out how to solve it from now on. There was a music class in the afternoon, so I should go and confirm what my singing ability had become like now. When I walked out of the office, she stood at the door and waved at me with a smile. But who could have imagined that inside, at that very moment, she felt as though the sky were collapsing? Because a few days earlier, when Oh Baek-jun came to see her, the two of them had specially discussed my issue. No matter how they thought about it, it all sounded absurd, but headquarters had also said to try it first. After all, the more options the better. Since this would be the first group launched, it absolutely had to succeed, and if there was a problem, they would send him away immediately. If he was good for nothing except his looks, then that definitely wouldn't do. After saying that, Han Yu-yeon turned and left. They probably wouldn't eliminate me immediately, right? When it was time to eat, I went alone to the somewhat noisy cafeteria. I had thought dancing was the only skill I could rely on to fight for a chance, but now it felt as if all the experience points I had accumulated over a lifetime had been reset to 0 in an instant. Just yesterday, I had excitedly observed every part of this body, yet I had failed to check the most important thing. At that moment, I was sitting alone in a corner of the cafeteria. I only felt unbearably awkward. Listening to them whisper about me, I hurriedly finished my meal in a fluster. Soon it was time for the afternoon music class, and just as we were practicing, the music teacher suddenly called me out. She said my voice sounded a little strange and told me to sing it again. As expected, a major entertainment company really was different. Everyone here was very strong. I felt that here I was completely at beginner level. By evening, I wanted to stay at the company and practice a little longer. For individual rehearsal, I needed to go to Yoon Ju-yeon and apply for permission to use a practice room. I quickly signed my name on the application form. Then I ran toward the practice room as fast as I could. When I reached the door, I heard strongly rhythmic music coming from inside. I had been practicing basic moves all day, so the moment I heard music, my body naturally grew restless. Inside the room, a beautiful girl dressed in purple was practicing dance, drenched in sweat. So I politely greeted her. Are you Hanyao E? We're the same age. My name is Jong Soo Ryan. Soo Ryan, your name is really pretty. After that, the two of us practiced together in the room in great sync, but I felt it was far from easy. In just that short while, I was already so tired that I couldn't even straighten my back. I collapsed onto the floor, drenched in sweat. Could it be that there was something wrong with my body again? Even just dancing a little hurt terribly. I wondered whether it would get a little better after I adapted. Because the first week had to be spent rehearsing as an intern trainee, could it be that I wouldn't even last 1 week before being eliminated? Jong Soo Ryan looked down at me helplessly. She had already been here for 5 years. And in that time, many people had come and gone. Because they were good looking, they were luckily selected, but after realizing their actual level, they immediately ran away. At first, everyone came in with a mindset of just giving it a try, but the idol path also looked cool, so you could try it too. She thought I had also come in with that same half-hearted attitude. So she bent down and advised me that if I didn't want to practice seriously, I should leave early. Hearing that, I froze on the spot and couldn't recover for a long while. Right after that, I got up, wanting to ask clearly what she meant, but she suddenly turned her head and started to leave. At that moment, I was really angry. Even if I looked a little ridiculous now, I had definitely not come here with a half-hearted attitude, and I had never looked down on the profession of being an idol. I was sincere about it. Hearing that, she turned back and looked at me. Then she strode toward me. Suddenly, she grabbed my clothes hard and aggressively leaned into my chest. That move scared me so much that I broke out in a cold sweat and hurriedly clutched my jacket shut. But she showed a look of utter disdain. If you're really serious about this, then why weren't you even wearing a bra while dancing? I never would have imagined that she would do something like that to me. Because I had practiced too hard the day before, I slept like a log the next morning. The alarm buzzed several times. I finally managed to get up and looked at my phone, only feeling that my head was a complete mess. I sat on the bed and sorted out my thoughts first. After getting ready, I went downstairs for a run. Halfway through the run, I glanced down and realized that it really was better than not wearing one. Because I had bought it in a rush last night, I had been worried that it wouldn't fit properly. If I wanted to regain my strength, I had to put in several times more effort than other people. The most urgent thing right now was to improve my stamina first, so I could withstand the intensity of the training. But after running for only 10 minutes, I was already drenched in sweat and gasping for breath. It seemed that in my previous life, I really had hated exercise. A wave of nausea suddenly surged up, and I almost threw up. Fortunately, someone nearby came forward and helped support me. For the coming week, I had to work even harder. I decided to start with basic practice alongside the assistant instructor. Practicing with me was Manhwa, a Thai trainee who had entered the company earlier than I had. Although we had always been practicing together, we had not spoken a single word until now. I moved my stiff body in front of the mirror, but I simply couldn't make it coordinate properly. Why exactly was I relearning all these most basic things from scratch? I saw that Manhwa had also stopped and sat beside me to rest, and I hesitated over whether I should take the initiative to greet her. Just then, 2 girls came walking toward us. Manhwa, are you done practicing? Let's go have lunch. Manhwa got up with a smile and went over to them. Then she left with them, chatting and laughing. Only then did I understand that it wasn't that she was quiet. She just didn't want to talk to me. In the lively cafeteria, I was the only one sitting all alone at a table. Maybe my stomach had gotten smaller because I got full after eating only a little, though that did save quite a bit of time. Just as I was walking forward, I suddenly saw Bok. So Ae. She was standing there, staring at me the whole time. She stood there, staring at me the whole time. I hurried past her, panicking inside. She actually ignored us completely, even though on the first day we had taken the initiative to greet her. I remembered that after the talent showcase ended on the first day, I was standing there alone in a daze. Bok, So Ae, and 2 other girls walked up to me and greeted me first. She even said that she was a year younger than me, so I didn't need to be too reserved. The last time you came to the company, we met before. You even seemed to call my name. Did we know each other before? I gave her an awkward smile. I had heard the director mention you before and say that you were very pretty, so the moment I saw you, I felt that the person she was talking about had to be you. Bok So Ae stared at me with disbelief all over her face. From then on, I tried my best not to run into Bok So Ae. Honestly, as long as I saw her, I would feel a little uncomfortable inside. And so, all kinds of classes repeated day after day. There was also the music class where I could hardly even open my mouth. What I found hardest to endure was still the physical training. After finishing a whole day of classes, I would still practice alone in the training room until late at night. And when I got home, I would repeatedly watch other female idols' dance videos and keep studying. I would also often send my dance videos to teacher Ho Jun, but because my internship period wasn't over yet, I rarely received any feedback from him. The things I had originally been good at now seemed even stranger because my body couldn't keep up, and sometimes my old habits slipped out during practice. The next day, I was listlessly daydreaming in the self-study room when I suddenly heard someone call my name. I turned around and saw Yoon Ji-yeon calling me to hand in my homework. Crap. I had actually forgotten to write the news reflection. I walked dejectedly down the hallway. They said this would also be included in the evaluation, so I might really get kicked out before my internship period was over. Staying up late practicing every day had left me groggy during the day. I had to pull myself together. Right now, I had to find a way to improve my stamina first. Then, dragging my exhausted body, I rushed into the bathroom almost as if I were running. Washing my face with cold water could at least help me wake up a little. But unexpectedly, what it brought was all kinds of discomfort. Staying up late practicing every day made me drowsy all day long. Just now, I came to the bathroom wanting to wash my face with cold water to wake myself up a bit. There seemed to be someone in the bathroom. I turned my head and saw that it was Oh Baek-jun inside. The next second, he angrily shouted at me, "This is the men's restroom." Only then did I suddenly realize it and turn around and run, leaving behind only a dumbfounded Oh Baek-jun. Thank goodness the person who ran into him was me. I actually even managed to enter the wrong restroom. Right after that, Oh Baek-jun came to my room to see me. The moment I saw him, I was startled. He asked me whether my internship period was about to end. Looking like this now, there's no way you can sign a formal contract. You've even developed dark circles. How are you getting along with the other trainees? Do you have any friends to hang out with? Hearing that, I stared blankly at him and said nothing. Looks like they've isolated you. It won't be easy to fit into their circle. I'll have Han Yu-yeon teach you how to build bonds with girls. Only now did I realize that even going to the restroom as a girl could feel this awkward. Just then, voices suddenly came from outside. It sounded like someone was talking about me the whole time. Not even doing her homework is way too much, isn't it? Just like Soo Ryan-uni said, it really seems like she came into the company without any real intention. The last time I tried to talk to her first, she pretended not to see me. Did she get into the company just because she's pretty, and now she's also judging people by their looks? I'm just afraid she'll affect the team atmosphere. Aren't you all worried too? But honestly, when that uni dances, it really is kind of funny, like a newborn foal. It doesn't match her looks at all. It's hilarious. So this was how they had been talking about me behind my back all along. Didn't they know someone was in the restroom? Anyway, I really don't want to see her. Looking at her like that, she'll probably be eliminated soon enough. Just then, Hyo-jong walked out of the restroom. The few people who had been gossiping instantly stopped, and all turned to look at Hyo-jong. One of the girls in black turned her head. Since she'll get kicked out sooner or later anyway, she might as well have some sense and get out on her own. At that moment, standing in the restroom, I didn't have the courage to walk out at all. I only dared come out after I was sure they had already left. From then on, I practiced nonstop in the classroom every day. Since they said those things about me, I absolutely could not lose. And just like that, before I knew it, I had practiced from daylight until dark. Drenched in sweat and collapsed to my knees, I could no longer tell whether I had improved at all. If I really was a terrible dancer, there was no way I could change overnight. I staggered to my feet. The company had gone so far as to use that strange medicine to bring me in, so they must have seen some kind of potential in me. Back then, if it weren't for Han Yu-yeon, I would never have gotten this body in the first place. If I left the company just like this, would that mean I wouldn't be able to use this body anymore in the future? Then I would have no choice but to turn back into the male Kim Sang-beep again and continue attending those auditions that were almost hopeless. Just then, the classroom door was suddenly opened. I turned around in fright. We had clearly agreed to close earlier today, but I saw that the light here was still on, so I came to take a look. So soon? Then doesn't that mean I can't keep practicing? I'm sorry, I'll leave right away. I hurriedly walked past Hyo-jong. I staggered forward, only feeling that my body was already out of control. At that moment, Hyo-jong suddenly called out to stop me as well. She stepped forward and placed a hand on my shoulder. Something seems off with you. I turned to look at her, completely unaware that I had already gotten a nosebleed. Then the next second, I collapsed to the floor with a thud, scaring Hyo-jong, who was standing beside me, into screaming. I don't know how much time passed before I groggily opened my eyes and heard someone calling my name. How are you feeling? Are you a little more awake now? Hyo-jong said that I suddenly got a nosebleed and fainted at the classroom door, and that she stayed by my side the whole time and even helped stop the bleeding. Luckily, I was still at the company then. You had only just arrived, so don't push yourself too hard. It must be exhausting after switching bodies, so you should change back first and get some rest. You still don't know anything about this body, so aren't you worried something might go wrong? I'll ask for half a day off for you tomorrow morning. I suddenly realized that I absolutely could not take time off. If my internship period ended, everything would be over. I even felt like I was going to be kicked out tomorrow. Whether it was singing or dancing, there wasn't a single thing I was good enough at to show off. Han Yu-yeon looked at me with a face full of regret. The reason we didn't sign directly with the interns was because we wanted to give you some time to think it over seriously. Because the schedule is tight, the first few days after you arrive are basically only basic training, but once a week passes and you've tasted that pain, you'll want to hold on to this job even more. Your will is indeed very strong, but it's hard to say. After all, your gender changed and your ability disappeared along with it. As long as you're not afraid of hardship and don't run away, we'll sign with you. Of course, You may still have to suffer a lot in the future. You won't make me leave immediately just because I perform badly, right? In the car, Han Yu-yeon told me that even so, this was only a temporary extension. For the sake of the future, I still needed to rest first. At that moment, I was leaning against the seat. So are we going to a hotel again now, or to my house? Who knew that the next second, she suddenly slammed on the brakes. We can't go to a hotel every time you want to switch bodies. Money doesn't grow out of the ground. So Han Yu-yeon took me straight to her house. The moment she opened the door, I was completely stunned. She stood in the doorway, smiling at me with a slightly seductive look. I stood at the door, hesitating over whether I should go in. Then she turned back and glanced at me. What are you dawdling for? I'm just letting you use the bathroom. That reminded me of when I first met her. She had also taken me straight to a hotel out of nowhere. It always felt like she did it on purpose. The moment I walked into the room, the first thing I saw was the balcony full of hanging clothes. Those hanging there. Could they all be underwear? I quickly turned my head away, awkwardly. But Han Yu-yeon didn't seem to care about any of that at all. She waved 2 coffee sticks in her hand at me. While you get some water, I'll make you a cup of coffee first. I felt that whenever I stayed with her, I would definitely be the first one to get embarrassed. Because my clothes had gotten dirty, I had to borrow the bathroom first to wash up. At that moment, Han Yu-yeon lifted one foot and reached down to tug at her stockings. Then she walked to the balcony, as if she had just remembered that she forgot to bring in the laundry this morning. I noticed that she wore almost the same clothes every day and rarely changed. Did she really not have any other clothes? After about 10 minutes, I stood at the bathroom door. After a whole week, I had finally changed back and there was no discomfort at all. I tried moving my arms around and didn't notice anything strange. My body had also miraculously returned to normal. Sure enough, my original body was still more convenient. Han Yu-yeon, who was holding coffee in her hand, turned around and saw me and was clearly startled. If a man suddenly appeared in front of anyone, they would naturally feel a little uncomfortable. Only then did she remember that her underwear was still hanging on the rack, and she hurriedly turned around and took it down in a panic. But the next second, she suddenly turned back and said there was something she had always wanted to ask me. What exactly was going on with that ridiculously ugly gray tracksuit I was wearing? She had clearly given me a company training outfit before, but I had left it at home. I was worried that I might suddenly change back into a man. So, to prevent accidents, I deliberately bought another oversized set of clothes. At that moment, Han Yu-yeon seemed to realize that the problem might be that the clothes were too tight-fitting, so her gaze stayed on me as if she were reassessing my height. How does your body feel? If you switch bodies while in a state of extreme fatigue, maybe the tiredness might suddenly be wiped out. But I felt just as sore and just as tired as before. I had originally thought that switching bodies back and forth could at least count as a kind of rest, but now it seemed that the physical condition was still preserved intact. She casually said that she felt really sorry toward me. The moment I heard that, my heart jolted. So it turned out she didn't completely understand the medicine from a previous life either. She had always thought there would be a way to solve it, so she hadn't looked into it deeply. She never expected switching bodies to be this difficult. From now on, I'll take responsibility and help you properly. We'll think of a solution together. Hearing that, I raised the coffee in my hand and tilted my head back to finish it in one gulp. I set the cup down on the table with a smack. No need. I have my own way. If it were my original body, there would be no need to worry at all. This time it was just that I hadn't adjusted my rhythm properly myself. There was no way I would have entered the company without even making this much preparation. What a guy who stubbornly saves face and forces himself to endure hardship. On the way back to my house, I told her that I got up at 5 every morning to run. After dropping out of school, I moved out and lived on my own. I just couldn't face my family, but I still wanted to continue being an idle trainee. I rented a place nearby, but there just happened to be construction going on right next to it. I had to go to training classes in the afternoon and work part-time in the early morning, so I could only come back and catch up on sleep in the morning, but every time I was woken up by the sound of construction. During that period, I really felt like the whole world was against me, and nothing I did went smoothly. Later, before the construction was finished, I got up every day to run and treated the construction noise as an alarm clock. From then on, whenever that time came, I would wake up naturally. I feel like I'm starting to understand your personality a little. So the more things go wrong for you, the more you push yourself to the limit. Before I knew it, the car had already reached my doorstep. After I got out, Han Yu-yeon told me that before signing the contract, we had to switch my body back first, and told me to come to her house tomorrow morning. Dragging my exhausted body home, I only felt tired and hungry. Could it be that after becoming a girl, my appetite had gotten smaller? But there was already nothing to eat at home. So where could I find food this late? As I thought that, I casually opened the refrigerator door. Was I seeing things? The refrigerator was actually stuffed full. It turned out that Grandma had brought all of that over for me on her way back from a business trip. While talking to Grandma on the phone, she told me some things about Han Yu-yeon. She was the daughter of the owner of the fortune-telling and herbal medicine shop that used to be visited often, and we had even met when we were young, though I truly didn't remember clearly. Grandma said that she had jokingly said something to Han Yu-yeon before. It was probably something like, "Behind you I can see a peerless beauty glowing with holy light," kind of like a guardian deity, and also like what you looked like in a previous life. And she actually believed it, and not long ago even went to the shop to find her. When she came, she was holding a box and said, She had found some very precious herbs in her family's warehouse. They had even been specially processed, and she wanted to try them out on me. Since I had finally obtained this opportunity with great difficulty, then I absolutely had to give it everything I had and never let myself regret it. Grandma had disliked the idea of me becoming some kind of idol from the very beginning, but ever since that incident, she had never stopped me again. I used to think Grandma was just fed up and didn't want to bother with a grandson like me who stubbornly refused to let go of his dream. It turned out that Grandma had never given up on me. The next morning, the very first thing I did was run to Han Yuyen's house and switch my body back into a girl state. After arriving at the company, Teacher Ho Jun directly told me that we were signing the contract today. Starting today, I also no longer needed to continue taking the basic class. He said that yesterday, he had even talked about me with Teacher Jarin. Teacher Jarin said that compared to before, the accuracy of your movements has improved quite a bit now. I also told her that you send me rehearsal videos every day. As he spoke, he even took out his phone to show Teacher Jarin. She's still only an intern, and you've already started giving her personal guidance. Judging from her condition, it seems like she's trying hard to adjust herself, but her physical ability can't keep up for the time being, so that's why she's so frustrated. I think you're the type who learns very quickly. Once your training reaches a certain level, going straight into real practice might actually suit you better. At that moment, I looked up at Teacher Ho Jun. He told me that from now on, I didn't have to send videos only at night. I could send them anytime, and he would carefully give me feedback. Hearing that, I was still very excited. Thank you. I will definitely work hard. Mana, who was standing next to Teacher Ho Jun and was already in her 3rd week of basic training, had started to feel a little envious of me by this point. Everyone gather around. I'll demonstrate the dance you'll be learning today. Starting today, Yao Yi will also join the group training. I could finally stand side by side with them in the formation. Su Ryan beside me still had that same look of contempt. I didn't see you this morning, so I thought you'd left. You're really something. You're joining us in practice this soon. Aren't you afraid you'll fall flat on your face like on the first day and cause trouble for everyone? But now, no matter what anyone said, it couldn't affect me anymore. Time really flies. I had already been at the company for a week, and my status had also changed into that of an official trainee. I was finally starting proper rehearsals that actually felt real, but my movements were still very stiff, and practicing was still difficult. Before long, I was already drenched in sweat. After finally making it through the practice with everyone to the end, I really couldn't hold on anymore and collapsed onto the floor with a thud. I felt like I couldn't quite keep up with everyone, probably also because someone beside me had been whining the whole time, making it impossible to concentrate. Jong Su Ryan had always disliked me. The hardest part of dancing is keeping your balance, but today I didn't fall even once, which proved that I really was improving. It seemed that all the desperate practice lately had been effective. Just then, I saw Hyo Jong. Everyone else was gathered in 2s and 3s, and only she was sitting alone on the floor. So I took the initiative to go over and greet her. I also took the chance to thank her for helping me yesterday. After I fainted yesterday, there were some things I couldn't remember clearly anymore, but I heard that you stayed by my side the whole time. Are you feeling better now? I didn't see you this morning, so I was pretty worried. I heard you've officially signed with the company. That's really great. From now on, we'll be able to see each other every day. Please take good care of me from now on. If we're really talking about who should be saying that, it should be me. In that instant, a wave of bitterness suddenly welled up in my heart. After being here for a week, this was the first time I had felt warmth. Break time is over. Next class is refinement class. Can I walk with you? I want to sit with you. After we got to the classroom, the teacher said that today a company artist would be coming to teach us. The originally quiet classroom instantly filled with murmuring, and everyone was guessing who exactly had come this time. It's a pleasure to meet everyone. I am today's special guest lecturer, Oh Baek-jun. The classroom, which had been noisy just moments before, fell silent in an instant. I looked around at the classmates, and everyone's reaction was unexpectedly cold. Just then, Hyo Jong told me that she was 24 this year and asked how old I was. But when I told her I was 4 years younger than her, she looked especially surprised. I used to be a member of the group Summer Girls, but because our popularity was too low, the group disbanded after only 1 year, so I became a trainee again. I felt like I had heard this group's name somewhere before. Since they had managed to debut, they should still have had some ability. Don't go looking it up, it's too embarrassing. Calling it a debut is honestly kind of awkward too. With my level of skill, I actually seem pretty ordinary here. The truly amazing people are over there. As she spoke, she pointed straight ahead. Those two have already been selected for the debut lineup. Although nothing has been finalized yet, they've consistently ranked first and second in the monthly evaluations, and the company also gives them separate focus training. Right now, you're all still very young, so you may feel that having to go through this kind of painful process is unreasonable. But the profession of being an idol is one that survives on ability and endures on attitude. Since you've chosen to stay here, you must bear all of this. Just as the president was standing at the podium seriously teaching everyone, a student suddenly shouted loudly, "President, tell us about your first love." The classroom instantly exploded with excitement. After one class, the president was obviously already exhausted. Kids these days are really terrifying. Soon it was time for dinner, and Hyo Jong and I sat together. She said that in the past, she had always eaten alone. I couldn't quite understand it. She clearly seemed like such a nice person, So why was she always by herself? Could it be that there was no one here her age? And those two people she mentioned to me during the day, other than during group training, I had hardly seen them. When I thought about how I had only been here for 1 week and had no idea how long it would take to recover the skill I used to have, I couldn't help wondering, by then, would there still be a place for me? Just a few hours ago, I had already signed the trainee contract. Right in front of Han Yu-yeon, I had told Oh Baek-jun that I would work hard. Han Yu-yeon told me that the debut lineup would not necessarily be decided entirely by skill, but at the very least, your level had to be above average among the trainees. Then, what do I have to do to reach above average level? Hyo Jong looked at me with a puzzled expression. Hyo Jong Uni, could you tell me? Aside from the two who have already been decided, those two? If we're talking about who else is strongest, then I'll explain it to you based on the results of last month's evaluation. First, in music, a girl named Ha Yen is currently ranked first. I heard she took part in a children's song competition and was fairly well known, but she's still young and hasn't reached her voice change period yet, so she still needs to be observed. But the music teacher often praises Bach. So Ae. Although she started learning music relatively late, her tone is really good. As for singing, Lee is currently ranked first. Min Ji is the first in the dance group. It seems like both of them graduated from the same art school. The people I just mentioned all have their own particularly strong fields. If we're talking about the person with the strongest overall ability, it should still be Sue Ryan. Hearing that, I really was a little shocked. No wonder she had always said those kinds of things to me before. Compared to them, I was far too lacking. Looking back now, maybe the reason they disliked me wasn't entirely without reason.
Don't talk about yourself like that.
You're very beautiful. If you looked completely ordinary, they wouldn't even spare you a glance. The reason they dislike you is because they feel threatened. At that moment, Hyo Jong gently shifted her chair and moved a little closer to me. Then she leaned close to my ear and whispered softly that I was the most beautiful person she had ever seen. You have probably already heard words like that so many times that you're sick of them, but I still wanted to tell you in person. The next day, during a break, Hyo Jong asked me whether I wanted to stay behind and practice more today. When I thought about how after dance class, I had barely practiced music much at all, and recently all my attention had been focused on improving my stamina, I decided to stay today and seriously practice singing. The moment I finished speaking, I couldn't help yawning. At that moment, Hyo Jong also noticed that I looked a little tired. I rubbed my shoulder and told her that once I warmed up a little, I should be fine. Don't force yourself. Don't faint again, like yesterday. You should lie down and rest for a while first. Right after that, she, who had been sitting on the floor, suddenly knelt down in front of me. I stared at her in shock. Lie down on my lap and sleep for a while first. As soon as she said that, she reached out and grabbed my shoulder. In that instant, I was so embarrassed my whole body went numb. Before I could even react, she tugged me down with a thump. Don't worry, if you fall asleep, I'll wake you up later. When I lay on Hyo Jong's lap and looked up at her, a cold sweat instantly broke out across my back. Just then, Han Yu-yeon had parked the car in the parking lot. She was still sitting in the car and hadn't even had time to get out yet. And at that exact moment, someone knocked on the car window. She turned her head to look outside the window and saw an older middle-aged man standing there, waving at her. After recognizing that the person outside was the president, she hurriedly got out of the car. You've been so busy lately that it's hard even to see you. Ever since you went to the company, has it been very hard? When I first established the branch company, the one I worried about most was that guy Baek-jun. He's not very decisive in how he does things. I've trained him for more than 10 years, so I know his personality very well. The one saying this was the entertainment company president, John Gyu-won. You should stay by his side and support him well. As soon as he finished speaking, he stepped one pace closer to Han Yu-yeon, especially that former chief secretary. Make sure he is very careful around him. After saying that, he turned and left. When Han Yu-yeon returned to the office, she dropped into the chair with a thud. She looked completely drained as she dialed a number. It turned out she was calling Team Leader Yun. She was asking Team Leader Yun for this week's customized training schedule. Looking at the chart she received, she realized that the month-end evaluation was coming up soon, and this week's assessment also had to be shared simultaneously with the producers and behind-the-scenes staff. When she saw Han Yaoyi's individual plan, she judged that given her current condition, the focus of training should still be on dance, and that extra yoga classes to improve flexibility should be added. Hearing Han Yu-yeon's voice over the phone, Team Leader Yun felt that she sounded very tired, but Han Yu-yeon was still thinking about how Yao Yi had been performing lately. After staying late to practice last night, I more or less grasped a few vocal techniques. To put it bluntly, the problem was adaptation. Just like the first time I heard myself in a recording, I spent that entire night rehearsing desperately. In order to make myself get used to this voice, Hyo Jong also helped me a lot. At this rate, if I just spend a little more time on dance too, could I slowly improve there as well? Just then, the music teacher walked over and called for me. Next, it's my turn to practice. Warm up your voice first, then sing this section all the way through. Standing beside the teacher, I sang the entire song all the way through with full concentration. Teacher, was my singing okay? It sounded good. It was much better than the first time. Your vocalization and breathing have both become much steadier. But were you singing in the original key? I raised the key a little higher than usual. Is there a problem? No, there isn't really anything in particular that needs adjusting. Congratulations, you passed. So I immediately went to find Hyo-jong and told her the news. While you were practicing yesterday, I could tell that you were constantly adjusting. I think the teacher must have noticed that too. Also, we have 2 music teachers in total, and one of them is only responsible for the debut group and the students whose skills are lacking. Luckily, you passed today. Otherwise, you would have been assigned to that teacher. Hyo-jong Uni, your singing is really good too. No wonder you're someone who has debuted before. I'm a little curious. After class later, I think I'll look it up. But unexpectedly, Hyo-jong suddenly became tense. She strongly resisted the idea of me looking up information about her former group. She told me that the group's stage style wasn't very good, so even if I watched it, it wouldn't be of much help. During the lunch break, I wandered alone up to the rooftop, constantly replaying my performance today in my mind. Just as I raised my head, I discovered that Director Han was also on the rooftop, so I called out to her. She turned around and looked at me in surprise. How did you find this place? This is my secret space. I stammered a little and said, isn't this just the rooftop? Do you see that building over there? In the past, a lot of paparazzi used to set up cameras there to capture artist scandals. The moment she said that, I froze completely. Hardly anyone ever comes here normally. Only some trainees who want to pretend to run into artists by chance come here. I hurriedly explained that I just wanted to find a place where I could move around a little after eating. At that moment, she kept staring at me. What drink are you holding? This? Hyo-jong bought it for me. Looks like you two have already become friends. I could tell that Director Han was actually happy for me. Then she held out her hand toward me. Can I have a sip? I'm suddenly a little thirsty, so I handed her the drink almost without hesitation. Watching the way she drank, I was worried she might choke. And sure enough, my bad luck of a mouth came true. She really did choke, and coughed very badly too. Looking at the clothes that she had sprayed all over with water, my face instantly fell, but she just laughed and covered her mouth, without the slightest hint of apology. Perfect, let's take this chance to wash those clothes and change into another outfit. You wear that ugly tracksuit every day. I looked at her with a confused expression, having absolutely no idea what she wanted to do to me again. This afternoon, come with me somewhere. After saying that, she smiled and turned away. That afternoon, she took me to a shopping mall filled with all kinds of clothes. Han Yu-yun told me that many artists came here to buy clothes. Do you have a type you like? Something like a white shirt with jeans. I tend to like that kind of look. Then she took me into a very fashionable clothing store. When she took out a piece of clothing and told me to try it on, I immediately said that I only liked seeing other people dressed like that. I never said I wanted to wear it myself, and I waved my hands to refuse in a panic. But she told me that we had come out today specifically to buy clothes for me, and there was no need to insist on dressing beautifully and revealingly. This is called an off-the-shoulder top, right? It was my first time wearing this kind of clothing, and the pressure was really huge. Then wear a square neck one that covers your shoulders, or a style that only shows one shoulder. But when I saw the clothes she had picked out for me, I still couldn't accept them at all. Even if my appearance had already changed, I really couldn't go out wearing clothes like that. It was too embarrassing. But she didn't listen to my explanation at all and directly picked up a slip dress and held it in front of me. Are you planning to wear a tracksuit on stage too? But the moment I saw that dress, my expression changed instantly. Even though I desperately refused, in the end, I still couldn't win against Han Yu-yun. Clothes this pretty are meant to be seen by people. Don't tell me that just because you put on this outfit, you're starting to waver about your identity? If you're a man, then be decisive about it. She was clearly provoking me on purpose. With no other choice, I could only walk into the fitting room full of unwillingness and change clothes. But this dress shows the bra straps. It's fine, just buy a strapless bra. While we're at it, I'll take you to buy one. I seriously suspected she was doing this on purpose. Through the crack in the door, I told her there was no need to go buy one specially. I knew my own size. In my whole life, I had never imagined that I would actually dress like this. When the wind blew past, it felt indescribably strange. Han Yu-yun grabbed my arm. Walk more naturally. Don't be so stiff and timid. No one will think you're strange. Although I never really liked shopping for clothes, seeing pretty girls in pretty clothes really does make your heart race. After that, she took me into another store. I was starting to feel more and more that she was just picking out clothes she liked for herself. When she picked up a dress, I hurriedly told her that I thought it actually suited her better. Who knew that in the very next second, she held the clothes up against me. I really don't like clothes that are this overly feminine. For the first time, I deeply realized that shopping really is this exhausting. By then I was already too tired to walk and was sitting on a bench in the mall to rest. Sorry to keep you waiting. These clothes should be enough for you to wear. Before I could even react, she dumped all the shopping bags onto my lap. What girl spreads her legs that wide while wearing a skirt? Do you still not even have that much common sense? Get up. I'll take you to look at cosmetics next. With a face that pretty, of course you have to take proper care of it. Let's buy everything all at once today. At that moment, I felt like a puppet being pushed around at someone else's will. An hour later, we finally finished buying everything we needed. Han Yu-yeon looked completely satisfied, but all I wanted now was to go home. Just then, her phone received a credit card billing alert. Don't tell me you paid for all this out of your own pocket, director? What else would I use? The company's money. Still, this is also for work. Hearing her say that, I could only follow cautiously behind her. Director, we've walked around for so long. Let me buy you a cup of coffee. Have you been worried about anything lately? Like problems with training? I do, actually, but I don't know whether I should say it. You said before that trainee selection isn't decided entirely by ranking based on skill. Does that mean there are other special criteria? I only said that to cheer you up. Why are you suddenly asking about this? Even though I barely got through vocal class today, looking at my current level, I really don't have any other area I particularly excel in. Who says you don't? Your face is your strength. There's nothing wrong with treating your looks as a special talent. Haven't you ever thought about how to make use of this body? If I really do that, then it would mean giving up the abilities I originally had. I heard the company is going to launch a boy group soon. Really? Then I guess their skills must be strong too. We should get going. So I carried the bags and silently followed behind her. Just then, a boy in a blue jacket passed by me and suddenly called out to stop me. I saw him bend down and pick up a wallet that had fallen on the ground. The moment he picked it up, he lowered his head and glanced at it. What came into view was actually a male ID card. He looked at me with a face full of confusion. Only then did I realize what had happened, and I whipped my head around, trying to snatch the wallet back from his hand. Is this yours? But this ID clearly belongs to a man. I was so embarrassed that I couldn't say a single word. Luckily, Han Yu-yeon came running over just then. We just found that on the road, and we were about to take it back to where we found it to see if anyone was looking for it. But the boy in front of us still had disbelief written all over his face. I reached my hand out to him. Just give me the wallet. I'll handle it myself. But unexpectedly, just as he extended his hand, he suddenly pulled it back the next second. In that case, I'd better keep it. He said he knew the person on the ID card. Just a little while ago, while we were having coffee, I accidentally dropped my wallet. And of all people, it happened to be picked up by a boy passing by. But no one expected that this boy would actually know the wallet's owner. Just as I insisted on getting the wallet back, Han Yu-yeon sensed that something was wrong and immediately whispered to me, "Wait, don't say anything." Then she looked at the boy. "Haven't I seen you somewhere before? You're that rookie who debuted recently, right?" I looked at Han Yu-yeon in confusion. I hadn't heard anything at all about any newly debuted male idol recently. After a while, I went back to the office with her. I demanded to know why she had stopped me just now, but her reaction was even bigger than mine. She came up to me and shook me hard by the shoulders. "What exactly is your relationship with the company? Why do you know so many people?" I quickly explained to her that the boy from earlier was called Cha Gong-won and that he had gone to the same school as me. But I really wasn't close to him at all. But honestly, he really is pretty handsome. Even Han Yu-yeon said the company had a pretty good eye for people. I immediately denied it and said that aside from his face, he was good for nothing, and that both his dancing and singing were unbelievably bad. How could someone like him possibly debut? Just then, a new message suddenly popped up on my phone. Speak of the devil. Cha Gong-won had sent me a message asking if I had gone to the mall today, saying my wallet was with him, and telling me to send him an address. The moment I heard the word address, I instantly panicked. I hurriedly asked Director Han if she could go get it for me, but she said that since she had already met him just now, it would only look even stranger if she went instead. Then, in the very next second, Director Han handed me a key card, hurried to my place, and switched bodies back. "I still have work, so I can't go with you. You walked around dressed like that for so long today. You must be exhausted." Secretly, I was overjoyed since I'd be able to switch back soon anyway. After that, I grabbed the tracksuit and turned to leave. Just then, Director Han suddenly spoke up. "You haven't given up on a man's body yet, have you? You should know that there was a reason I made you try on all kinds of clothes and do all kinds of styling. Clothing isn't just about image. It also affects where people's eyes go. That sense of discomfort you feel now will only get stronger and stronger from here on." I turned back to look at her. Smiling, she said that if I still couldn't let go of my old self in the end, then changing would have no meaning. I think I understood what she meant. I thought about what had happened on the rooftop. Before leaving, I asked her one question. "Do you want to mess around with me too?" After that, only a stunned Han Yu-yeon was left sitting there. On the way back, I still couldn't understand it at all. Other than that face, there was really nothing about Cha Gong-won that showed any strengths or charm. I remembered the first day he came to the academy when he introduced himself and said he was a trainee under Who Entertainment, but no one had any idea where Who Entertainment even was. He told everyone that a talent scout had approached him first and told him to learn singing and dancing before reporting in. So he was just an ordinary person like us. With a body like that, even if he just danced a little, he would look ridiculously handsome. Later, in a music class, he stammered through a song and got scolded by the teacher on the spot. Before long, no one paid any attention to Cha Gong-won anymore. One day, in the hallway outside the classroom, he took the initiative to talk to me. "You sing really well. I thought you were only good at dancing." I thought to myself that I had only hummed a few lines casually, and yet he had actually heard it. But what I didn't expect was that he asked me what was going on with me croaking like a frog from time to time. I immediately got angry and told him Those are ad-libs. It's the hiccup singing style. Don't tell me you don't even know Michael Jackson? But he looked like he was making fun of me. So right there on the spot, I showed him a section of moonwalk. You know this dance at least, right? But like an idiot, he said, so this dance can be done without moving forward. Just then, it seemed like someone behind us was calling him. When I turned around, it was Bok So Ae. Bok So Ae asked him to go with her to the comic cafe on the first floor. Half doubting it, I asked whether they were dating. Bok So Ae instantly blushed and quietly told me that they had promised to try dating if they both succeeded in the audition. Later, after I had interacted with Cha Gong-won for a while, my impression of him could be summed up in one sentence. So pure, it was irritating. Before I knew it, I had arrived at Han Yu-yeon's house. After switching back to my own body, I went to the place we had agreed on and waited for him. Just then, I suddenly saw Bok So Ae. I looked at her in horror. Class clearly wasn't over yet at this hour, so why was she out? Bok So Ae glanced at me, then hurried off. Just now, Cha Gong-won and I had arranged to meet, so I could get my wallet back. He's about to debut, so if I don't take the chance to see him now, when will I ever get another chance? But when I told him I had even skipped class, he actually said, "You still haven't given up on becoming a trainee." I couldn't believe that after all this time, he was still mocking me like this. Putting everything else aside, there was at least one thing I was sure of. I worked harder than he did, and I wanted success more than he did. And yet the position I had dreamed of was now occupied by him instead. Cha Gong-won, what exactly do you think is the reason you were able to debut? Did your skills improve? Or did you discover some other talent? I've gotten a little better than before, but compared to the other members, it's still painful to watch. Right now, I'm even hearing insults I've never heard in my life before. My debut has nothing to do with skill. If you insist on calling it a talent, then even if you say I'm only relying on my face, I can't refute that, because I really am handsome. Hearing him say that only made me feel even more crushed. I should just go home first. Today has been exhausting in every possible sense. Suddenly, a car horn sounded from behind me. It was Han Yu-yeon. You can't possibly go back like that, can you? If you keep wandering around here, people will get the wrong idea. Only then did I come to my senses. The clothes we bought today are all in the car.
Take them.
I walked up to the car window, and she handed me the key card to her front door. Will you take me there? I need to switch my body back. But my hand slipped, and the key card fell to the ground with a smack. Han Yu-yeon looked at me in disbelief. What is wrong with you today? Didn't you say hotel money doesn't just grow out of the ground? But she said it was too troublesome to keep going back and forth like this. Though it would be different if we were the same sex. I'll take you this last time. From now on, you go by yourself. Soon, the car stopped in front of our apartment building. As I sat in the bathtub, looking at the pale blue bathwater, I had heard that if it mixed with other fluids, the effect would be used up. Should I really give it up? Cha Gong-won understood it himself too. He had no way of competing with others through singing and dancing like they did. He admitted it and accepted it. So he used his looks to create the aura of a male idol. That and someone like me who only wants to prove myself through ability are completely different paths, because aside from ability, I have no other choice. After finishing the bath, what appeared before my eyes was someone whose limbs moved in a terribly uncoordinated way and who didn't seem to have any other talent, yet who just happened to have an extraordinarily beautiful face. I am Han Yao-yi. I will polish myself until I become even more perfect. Starting today, I will use a woman's identity to desperately fulfill my dream. Meanwhile, Cha Gong-won was trying to find out news about Han Yao-yi. I heard a particularly beautiful newcomer arrived recently, and everyone's been making a huge fuss about it. If I'd met her earlier, I would have handed her my business card long ago. No wonder. With that kind of presence, you can tell at a glance, she's no ordinary person. Holding the wallet he still hadn't returned, he kept replaying the scene of seeing Han Yao-yi that day over and over in his mind. The next day, while everyone was practicing, Bok So Ae walked in. The moment our eyes met, I decided I would stop avoiding her. While practicing, I noticed that my movements had become very agile. Could it be that the yoga classes I've been taking lately are finally working? Thinking of the side flip I had practiced before, I suddenly started wondering whether I could still do it now with a woman's body. Should I try? Then I crouched down and pressed my palms hard against the floor, focusing my mind and shifting my center of gravity onto my upper body. Just as I was about to land, a sharp pain suddenly surged through my stomach. Damn it. Everything had been perfectly fine right up until before landing, and then in that instant my stomach suddenly started hurting badly. Hyo Jong, who was standing nearby, immediately came over to support me. That was so dangerous. Do you think you're the only one using this classroom? I turned back to look at the group of people mixed in with Jong Soo Ryan. Hearing her say that, I refused to back down. I heard that aside from the debut group, you're the best dancer. Then why do you keep staring at me every time I practice? Is there something you want to say to me? She stammered and told me that she had only kept watching because she thought it was funny. After practice ended, Hyo Jong and I went to the changing room together. Today's atmosphere is really a total mess. I heard the return schedule is out, so Let's go take a look together. Only then did I belatedly realize that the monthly evaluation would be in just 2 weeks. The month-end evaluation was meant to show how much progress had been made over the past month. Outside judges and senior management would all be there to supervise. If you left a good impression, you could get the chance to enter the debut prep class directly, but if you were judged to have no more potential, a trainee could also receive a notice of dismissal. This month's evaluation was divided into 2 parts: individual and team. Everyone has to prepare 2 performances, so make sure you're all ready. Just then, Hanyu Yun at the side waved at me and greeted me. Hanyu Yun, standing nearby, waved and greeted me. When the team grouping list was announced, Hyojong was assigned to a group. To my utter surprise, I ended up in the same group as Bak. But that was fine, because now I was Han Yaoi. At lunchtime, I told Hyojong that I was going to the rooftop first. At that moment, in order to run into Han Yaoi by chance, Cha Gong-won, who normally never went to the cafeteria to eat, was actually heading there today. But on the way to the cafeteria, he heard people talking, saying that Han Yaoi was alone on the rooftop. He didn't even bother eating and immediately ran toward the rooftop. At that moment, standing on the rooftop, Han Yaoi couldn't help complaining that trainees weren't even allowed to use the gym. With the team task ahead, she had to pull herself together and absolutely couldn't hold the others back. Just then, her stomach started hurting uncontrollably again. Could something really be wrong? She was thinking about leaving quickly when she turned around and saw Cha Gong-won and instantly panicked. Why was he here? Wasn't it said that artists rarely came to the rooftop? Seeing him walk straight toward me, I quickly shouted, "Don't come over here. Haven't you heard that rumor? There are fans with cameras waiting in the building across from here." But who knew that he would actually laugh out loud? "What are you worried about? This is just the company rooftop. That rumor was already from 5 years ago." "You're not wrong, though. It really would be troublesome if people misunderstood, but I kind of want to walk over there. If you feel uneasy, why don't you come down first?" I looked at him with a baffled expression, having no idea what kind of nonsense this bastard was suddenly up to again. As she walked along, she thought to herself that even though she was the oldest uni in this group now, the treatment she received and the way people looked at her were always subtle, and she had almost no presence at all. Before debuting, she had once had experience promoting as a girl group member, and throughout that entire period, she had worn almost nothing but swimsuits all year round. Although it stirred up some talk online, the group ultimately disbanded. That made her feel that Yaoi was really amazing. If it were her, if she had a pretty face, she might consider taking an easier path. But Yaoi never gave off the feeling that she had ever thought of using her appearance to get what she wanted. And at that moment, I was standing on the rooftop, watching Cha Gong-won come closer to me step by step. I hurriedly started walking down. "Use the rooftop or don't, I don't care. That way I won't be in the way here." But just as I passed by him, he was shocked to discover that there was blood on my pants. He hurriedly called out to stop me and at the same time took off his jacket. And of all times, it was just then that Hyojong found me too and called out my name. When she saw Cha Gong-won holding his jacket as if he were trying to shield me from something, she was completely stunned and thought he was trying to do something to me. She hurried over and stood in front of me. "Listen, male and female trainees are forbidden from talking to each other. You misunderstood. I'm not a trainee." Hearing that, Hyojong immediately lowered her head and apologized. "I'm sorry, I failed to recognize someone important. So your name is Yaoi. It's a pretty nice name. Is it your real name?" I saw Hyojong, who was standing in front of me, looking at him with a confused expression, and I quickly grabbed her hand. "Since you're already here, let's go together." So without even turning my head back, I pulled her along and walked away, while Cha Gong-won kept shouting behind us, "Wait." I suddenly felt that something was a little strange. It seemed like I really hated him. Panting as she ran along with me, Hyojong said from behind, "This makes it look like we're deliberately ignoring him. That person might even become our senior someday." Without even looking back, I grabbed Hyojong and rushed all the way into the restroom. At that moment, I felt an unfamiliar fear I had never experienced in my life before. Thankfully, Hyojong was there to help me. I took off my jacket and tied it around my waist, thinking that should make things a little better. When we were on the rooftop earlier, did Cha Gong-won see it too? I'm a girl now, and this is perfectly normal, so I have to get used to it as soon as possible. At that moment, Hyojong gently tugged at the hem of my clothes and told me we had to gather at 1 o'clock. When we got to the classroom, everyone was discussing what kind of song style we should choose. Should we try covering a boy group dance? That might make us stand out more. But they strongly objected and even said I was the biggest weak link in the team. In the end, everyone decided to choose by voting. At that moment, Teacher Ho Jun walked over and asked us to show him a sample of the key dance moves. But while dancing, I felt extremely uncomfortable. I lifted my shirt and wiped the sweat off my face. Suddenly, Hyojong yanked my shirt back down. "What are you doing?" Teacher Ho Jun is still standing right in front of us. Min-ji, who was lying on the floor resting, suddenly asked me if I usually practice boy group dances more. Girl group dances aren't street hip-hop style. She used to only dance that kind too, and always felt that the cutesy, flirtatious moves in girl group dances were too embarrassing. Just then, Teacher Ho Jun suddenly put down the folder in his hand. If you had seen someone who truly dances well, you wouldn't think that way. Right after that, he directly performed a short segment in front of everyone, and everyone there stared in shock. It had been a long time since I had seen teacher Ho Jun dance in person. He had already mastered girl group dance to perfection back in the day. You were really amazing just now. I never disliked girl group dances when I was young, and I never felt ashamed of them either. But no matter how hard I tried to imitate them, I still couldn't give off that uniquely feminine aura. In order to find that light and lively idol style, I even dug out old videos of former idols and rewatched them all. I remember there used to be a lot of girl groups with that kind of style. At that moment, I suddenly remembered Hyo Jong mentioning her old group to me before. So I turned on the computer and searched for it. But surprisingly, I couldn't find it anywhere in the search results. Maybe it was because the group existed for such a short time. The next day, everyone gathered together and rehearsed the performance from beginning to end once again. Hyo Jong looked at my listless expression and asked me if I still wasn't feeling well today. The moment I thought about how I had woken up in the middle of the night yesterday and gotten up to wash the blanket and my underwear, my mood dropped to rock bottom. Minji even told me I should thank her for saving me a spot. She also told me that from that position, no matter what angle people looked from, even the slightest mistake would be especially noticeable. Team D was also assigning roles and practicing nervously. Team A also had very little time left to rehearse for the individual performance. But Jim Ha-yeon on that team suited many different styles. She suggested that after every chorus, everyone should strike a different pose. But unexpectedly, Hyo Jong, who was standing nearby, heard every word clearly. Hyo Jong immediately turned around and told Yaoi about it, saying that everyone should come up with a signature pose of their own. But the team members were worried it would overlap with what the others were doing, so they still felt it was safer to just dance properly, or maybe add a bit more charm to their facial expressions. I sat alone on a stool, completely unable to take in what they were saying. Hyo Jong ran over and asked if I was embarrassed. If you force yourself to do things you normally wouldn't do, of course, it'll feel unnatural. I was never the type who smiled a lot to begin with. I looked up at her and said that I actually wasn't very suited to smiling. I'd even heard people say before that I had an unlucky looking face and that I shouldn't smile so widely. I don't even know why myself. As I kept talking, I unconsciously started talking about things from when I was a man, leaving Hyo Jong beside me completely stunned. After turning from a man into a beauty, I actually did a cute Egyo gesture for the first time. Just now, I had actually started talking to them without realizing it about things from when I was a man. Only when I saw the shocked expressions on Hyo Jong's and Bak So Ae's faces did I suddenly come back to my senses and quickly explain that I was talking about my older brother. Just then, Minji walked over and directly showed me through her actions exactly where the gap between amateur and professional lay. Watching her strike all kinds of poses like a clown, even I felt embarrassed for her. But she didn't care at all, and even said that those kinds of moves were most suitable when done by someone who is naturally cute. Right now, I can't even meet the most basic standard of an idol. When I think about how there are obviously so many examples around me, why is it so difficult only when it comes to me? In the hallway, I ran into Oh Baek-jun, and I quickly copied Minji and did a cute gesture at him. Before Oh Baek-jun could even react, I had already slipped away at top speed. Only Oh Baek-jun, full of confusion, was left frozen in place. Could it be that she's practicing expressions? To help me improve faster, Oh Baek-jun called me to the director's office. When I arrived, he said he wanted to show me someone I could use as a reference, someone who would help me a lot. Then he held up a postcard for me to see. The person on the postcard turned out to be Iru Shah, the final winner of the global survival audition show 9 Girls. I carefully looked at the postcard in my hand, not understanding for a moment why he had suddenly given it to me. On the way back, I thought about it and felt like I had heard that name somewhere before, and the photo also looked very familiar. I absentmindedly turned my head and saw a poster on the wall. It was her. That poster had already been hanging there for a long time. She had previously been a trainee under Parang, and after debuting, she even appeared on a survival show. At that moment, Hyo Jong behind me told me that this person had the greatest influence. Although she ranked 3rd in the end, her popularity was genuinely high. Anyway, she's really amazing, and her mentality is especially strong. After you go back, you can look up her old videos and watch them during breaks. I went alone to the pavilion and looked up information related to Iru Shah. It felt like she might not really be that suitable either. Compared with the other contestants, her expressions didn't seem that natural, and even the way she spoke felt a bit stiff. She wasn't at all like how they described her. Could it be that once she stepped onto the stage, she transformed into a completely different style? Isn't it said that a superstar drives both fans and haters crazy? But when I looked at the performance videos on my phone, I found they were in sharp contrast to the comment section. So incredible. It had already been a long time since I'd been so shocked by a female idol stage. The global survival audition had already ended 2 months ago, and now she was about to begin her solo activities. So I sat in the pavilion and started going through her old videos. One of the judges said that they had been paying attention to her from the beginning. Everyone else had a bright smile and was looking for the camera, but she alone sat there quietly, barely moving. But once she stepped onto the stage, It was as if she became a different person, especially the confidence that came through in her expression control. It was already completely at the professional level of a debuted artist. The judge gave her extremely high praise and even asked whether she usually didn't smile much. Then the judge told her that whether she could debut or not would still be decided by a national vote. In the end, she successfully secured a debut spot by ranking first in the voting. She was clearly that kind of person by nature, so why did she seem to change completely the moment the music started? Watching her videos made me realize that compared with singing and dancing, what I lack more is acting. Even if I put on clothes that don't match the real me, I still have to make others believe that this is the real me. Although I've never taken acting classes here, this style is a little different, and simply imitating it like I am now definitely won't work. Who exactly should I ask for help with this problem? Looking at Irusha's perfect appearance on the postcard, could it be that I had chosen the wrong method from the very beginning? Just then, Kaylee stood in front of me. The moment she saw the Irusha postcard in my hand, her expression instantly became animated. Irusha is an idol who works incredibly hard and truly loves her job. She's so popular that she's busy every single day, and you can't meet her in person at all. Kaylee leaned close to me and whispered that she had heard Irusha had almost made it into the debut lineup here before. Since it's rare to meet someone who likes the same idol, I'll give you a few more. After saying that, she pulled out a whole bunch of postcards with Irusha printed on them from her pocket. Are they all this crazy about idols? Just a moment ago, I was lying weakly on the bed. The first day was stomach pain. Now it was already the third day, and my lower back had started hurting too. It was pure torture. I looked it up online, and it basically takes 4 to 8 days to end. On top of that, I'd already been practicing facial expressions all day, so much that my face was practically cramping. What if I wet the blanket again tonight while I'm asleep? I need to hurry and put a large pad down before bed. Suddenly, a box fell out of my bag. I turned my head and saw that it was actually the reincarnation medicine Hanyu Yun had given me. As I stared at the reincarnation medicine that had rolled onto the floor, I couldn't help thinking, do I really need to keep enduring this extra pain? I can switch my body back at home right now. And if I only changed back into a man's body at home, there probably wouldn't be any problem. Normally, I would never do something like this, but I really couldn't take the pain from my period anymore. The next morning, when I picked up the box, I discovered that it was already empty, and I froze on the spot. Up until now, I had received a total of 3 sets. I had never checked how many were left, and it turned out I had already used the last one. And today I still had to go to class. I quickly called Hanyu Yun and told her that something serious had happened. On the other end of the phone, Hanyu Yun said that something like this was bound to happen sooner or later. She just hadn't expected it to happen so fast. I went to her office to look for her and found that she wasn't there. When I called her, she told me she had to go to a meeting now and couldn't help me right away, so she told me to wait in the director's office first. Just as I was about to walk out of the room, I suddenly thought of something. What if I ran into Bak, So Ae or Cha Gongwon? So I quickly took a mask out of my bag. Then I put on this black hat too. That way, I probably wouldn't be recognized. Right after that, I went downstairs in the company building. Following Hanyu Yun's instructions, I didn't use the main entrance, but went through the staff passage instead. She had already informed them in advance. When I got to the elevator, I saw that it looked like the doors were about to close. I hurriedly ran over. I vaguely saw a beautiful woman standing inside. Before I could get in, the elevator doors had already closed first. I was puzzled. Didn't the person inside see me? There was no choice but to take the stairs. After arriving at the room, wearing the mask had made me feel stuffy, so I quickly took it off and collapsed onto the sofa in exhaustion. Exhausted, I slumped onto the sofa, having no idea when Hanyu Yun would finally come. Just then, I suddenly heard footsteps, so I lifted the brim of my hat a little and saw a woman walk in. Why would someone come here? What if I get discovered? I looked up, and it seemed to be the beautiful woman from the elevator just now. She sat down beside me without saying a single word. I took a careful side glance and realized it was Irusha. It was far too quiet, and the atmosphere in the room was unbearably awkward. Why had she come to the director's office? And why had she chosen to sit right beside me? Only then did I suddenly remember, shouldn't I send Hanyu Yun a message to let her know I had arrived? Just as I was rummaging for my phone, all the postcards in my bag suddenly spilled out. I looked down at the postcards scattered all over the floor. If she saw that I had collected so many of her postcards, would she think I was some kind of pervert? Before I could pick them up, Irusha suddenly stood right next to me, scaring me so badly that I instantly broke out in a cold sweat. She directly snatched my bag away, and I felt like I was about to face the second great crisis of my life. I told her that an acquaintance had asked me to come here, but she kept examining my ID back and forth. Judging by your appearance, you don't look like a trainee, and you don't look like an employee either. Even if you honestly admit that you're just a fan, it actually doesn't matter. Then she turned around and stuffed the bag back into my hands. In the past, some people didn't even dare show their faces and would only use underhanded methods. So when someone suddenly appears right in front of me, of course, I find it strange. Doesn't anyone deal with things like that? Irusha sat on the sofa with her chin propped on her hand and thought for a moment, then said that those people bully others in sly ways. but without actually breaking the law. Because there's no face-to-face contact, there's no way to identify them the way she could identify me, and it's also hard to punish them. The company did arrange bodyguards for me at first, but in the end, it was all just for show. Just because I mentioned some private matters during a live stream, they said it would damage my image. So from the very beginning, I never expected them to help me solve the problem. This feels a little different from the kind of company I know. It seems I still don't really understand how large corporations handle things like this. There was another thing that puzzled me a lot. Why was she telling all this to me, someone she had just met? Just then, I remembered what Oh Baek-jun had said to me. So I quietly walked over to Iru Shah and told her what I was thinking. But she said that I was clearly carrying her photo cards on me and still refusing to admit that I was a fan, which only made me look even more suspicious. I had no choice. In order to make her willing to help me, I agreed to help her catch that group of sly people. But when I said that I hoped she could help guide a trainee, she froze instantly and stared at me in utter disbelief. Just then, Han Yu-yeon arrived at the director's office. Both I and she turned toward the door at the same time. When Han Yu-yeon saw me and Iru Shah in the room together, she froze on the spot. And Iru Shah quickly walked up and said that this person claimed to be her fan and that she had just talked with him for a while. After saying that, she turned back to look at me again and said she would contact me later. Just then, the president walked closer to me. She usually really dislikes fans, so what happened to her today? She seems to be in a pretty good mood. Young man, you're quite lucky. Only then did Han Yu-yeon come back to her senses and introduce me to the man in front of me. She said that the man in front of me was the president of Mitong and that he knew all about the reincarnation medicine and my situation. He looked somewhat older than I had imagined. Young man, why are you so short? I was instantly embarrassed to death. I estimated my height myself, and it did seem like I hadn't reached average height yet, though my build was still fairly solid. After the president left, Han Yu-yeon quickly asked whether I had been frightened. Right now, I had no mind for anything else. I was only worried about my body. Because things have been so busy lately, I didn't keep track of the reincarnation medicine properly. If you're in such a hurry to turn back into a woman, then something serious must have happened. So I told her everything from beginning to end. After that, she took me to a traditional medicine shop. A sharp medicinal smell rushed straight at me. I had heard before that her family ran a pharmacy. Could this be it? Just then, 3 little boys appeared in front of me. When I heard one of the boys call out Mom, I was completely dumbfounded. Han Yu-yeon tapped that little boy and said that every time she brought a male guest back, he called out like that. Then she turned and explained to me that the boy was her cousin's child. She had also asked the little boy in advance to prepare something and put it in the refrigerator. She told me to sit here and rest for a while first, and that she would come over in a bit. That little boy sneakily sat down next to me. Are you Sister Yu-yeon's boyfriend? The moment he asked that, I became even more embarrassed and hurriedly explained it to him. Then he asked if I would be bored, and before I could answer, he handed me a book and said that if I felt bored, I could read this fairy tale book. I told the little boy that in our line of work, this book was considered a rather famous legend. This book mainly tells the legend of Bird Bear Mountain. According to the legend, behind the sacred tree in the mountain, if anyone carrying male energy entered the mountain god would become enraged. Even men accompanied by guards were no exception, so they would use past life medicine to turn into women. It was an herb from Bird Bear Mountain that could draw out the ideal body remembered by the soul, allowing a person to return to their previous life and take on their past appearance. In this way, they deceived the eyes of the mountain god and continued living in the tribe. It was said that after returning, they would only leave the mountain and restore their original bodies when it was time to reproduce. At that moment, I glanced at Han Yu-yeon. She was standing in front of a pile of bottles and jars, busy with her hands full. The book said that herbs that had lost their spirituality would turn into ordinary weeds, but the reincarnation grass was different. I casually handed the book back to the little boy. What kind of fairy tale book is this? This is clearly a witchcraft belief. I also told him children shouldn't keep reading things like this. But now, even I myself didn't know whether I should believe these superstitions. And at that moment, Han Yu-yeon also walked over. Then, in a mysterious manner, she took out a small bottle from behind her back. Look, what do you think is inside this bottle? She told me that the blue one was perfume. I immediately thought to myself, could this be the reincarnation medicine? But then she sprayed it directly at me and told me to try it. Before I could even react, my body had turned into a woman, leaving the little boy beside me completely dumbfounded. He was so shocked that he couldn't say a word. It finally worked. I turned it into a perfume type. With just one spray, you can change your appearance. There are neither space restrictions nor time restrictions, so it's very convenient. But I still asked her suspiciously, if something this convenient exists, why didn't you give it to me earlier? She told me this was her trump card. And besides, this thing had only been developed recently. It turned out that the duration of the liquid and the bath ball were different. After 24 hours, the liquid's effect would wear off, and then you would return to your original form. I took the liquid, thinking that if I wanted to maintain it, then I would just need to spray it once more before the effect disappeared. Suddenly, Han Yu-yeon leaned closer to me. Actually, it has another side effect. I still recommend that you use the bath ball. If there were really no other way, I wouldn't be giving this to you. Hearing that, I was completely stunned. She was actually leaving it to me to discover the other side effect myself. Could it be the kind of side effect where the transformation only happens halfway? Suddenly at that moment, the little boy shouted loudly at me, "Hello, big sister. I'm an elementary school student in the lower grades. My name is John Yongnan." Did he forget that just a moment ago, I was still a man? On the way back with Han Yu-yun, she asked me about what had happened in the director's office just now. So I told her, word for word, what I had said to Ru Sha in the director's office. She also told me that her real name is Gai Yongwon. As for what kind of person she really is, what she is thinking, and why she accepted the proposal I made, I could never have imagined any of it, even in my wildest dreams. Just a moment ago, I also told Han Yu-yun about what I had said to Ru Sha. You actually recommended yourself, and Ru Sha even agreed to help? That really shocked me. At that moment, I suddenly remembered that Ru Sha told me not to mention her private matters to anyone in the company, especially Han Yu-yun. Director Han, what do you think of Ru Sha as a person? Setting personal opinions aside, her ability and influence are not to be underestimated, so you should learn from her well. Just like that, I kept the reason for our exchange of help to myself and did not tell Han Yu-yun. Now the only problem is how to catch the people who are bullying her. Ru Sha told me that they harass her by stuffing letters into her car or ringing the doorbell at her house. I feel that even if we checked the security cameras, we probably would not be able to make out their facial features clearly. I never expected their range of activity had already gotten this close. When I asked Ru Sha whether there were usually any suspicious people appearing around her, she told me that she had no interest in the people around her. Only then did I realize that I knew absolutely nothing about her. At that moment, Kaylee came over to me and asked what had happened, and I told her that I wanted to know some private information about Ru Sha. The moment I finished speaking, she tilted her head and looked me over, her face full of curiosity. Yesterday you said you had not known Ru Sha for long. So, how did you get completely captivated by her charm today? I told Kaylee that because of certain things, the situation looked urgent right now, and I was like a child staring at homework that absolutely had to be finished. Just then, Hyo-jong also walked over. Kaylee turned her head and asked Hyo-jong whether she still remembered Jong Soo-ryan. Weren't you two pretty close before? We were not especially close, but when I had just started training, she did take pretty good care of me. That girl did not used to have the kind of personality she is now. Her personality, tone, and gestures have all changed. Maybe she can fool other people, but she cannot fool me. I noticed it last month when we were put in the same group for the evaluation. She has always been imitating other people. If you do not believe me, then I will give Ru Sha a simple test, and the truth will definitely come out. After that, she looked at me with that kind of gaze again. The fact that she can make you fall for her instantly is exactly her charm. I froze for a moment. The next day, while we were rehearsing, Min-ji said that my expression would decide whether this competition would be a pass or an elimination. I awkwardly struck a pose at her. Do you think this will not work? I already told you very clearly to use a cute signature move, but all you did was poke your cheek once. Before the performance, please think it over properly again. After hearing her, I turned around and walked away. This was a move I had spent a long time coming up with. Suddenly, she called out to stop me again. I turned back and saw her holding her chin with both hands. This is my signature move. Isn't it cute? I looked at her expressionlessly. It is not that different from mine. As the monthly evaluation drew closer and closer, the company decided to keep the practice rooms open until 3 in the morning. After being tormented by my period for 4 days, my physical condition was finally much better today. But honestly, I still was not used to it, and my whole body felt uncomfortable. Jong Soo-ryan, who was standing to the side, saw me spacing out and asked, "Do you not want to rehearse with me? Do you want me to leave?" I lowered my head and sighed. I should just ignore her, as long as she did not deliberately pick a fight like she did on the first day. Thinking about how she treated me before, at that time no matter who came to watch, it would have been hard to say I performed all that well, since I had gone on stage in a rush with no preparation at all. Not long ago, I realized that the feeling she gave me was exactly the same as Cha Gong-won. And this time, the person staying to practice until dawn was actually her. Right then, a burst of music started playing. It sounded so familiar. It was Halo Error, Ru Sha's first competition song. Jong Soo-ryan, who is still not very well known in Korea, could she be planning to perform this for her individual monthly evaluation? Looking at her movements, it really did feel similar. Could it really be like Kail Lee said, that she had always been imitating other people? Forget that for now. I had to practice my own performance too. So I rose onto my toes in front of the mirror, getting ready to dance with the rhythm. I stretched my hand forward and swung my body along with the beat. Every step landed on the center of the beat. Meanwhile, Jong Soo-ryan, watching me dance from the side, remembered the first time she saw me dance. When the music ended, my movements also came to a stop. Today's feeling seemed a little different. I remembered having this feeling before. If it was not just my imagination, could it be that my body was about to change back? Just then, Jong Soo-ryan asked me whether I had been with the director during the lunch break. I looked at her curiously, not understanding why she was suddenly asking that. It's just that you two seem pretty close. Ordinary trainees have no reason to be that close to the director. To be honest, I really could not stand that arrogant look of hers. Suddenly, The door to the practice room was pushed open, and a beautiful woman in a pink coat walked in. "Which one of you is Han Yaoi?" When I saw that the person who came was Iru Shah, I panicked at once and stammered a response. Standing at the door, she brushed back her hair. "I came to keep my promise." I did not expect that she really was someone who did what she said she would do. So I followed her outside, leaving behind only a baffled Jong Soo Ryan. When I first came out, I saw Jong Soo Ryan glaring at me as if she wanted to kill me. It looked like the rumor that I was getting favors through connections was going to be confirmed again. But I really did not expect her to come find me so suddenly. She told me that she could not come during the day because she had things to do, and that being seen by others like just now would be troublesome. From now on, if anything came up, she would come find me in the early morning. No matter when she came, as long as she was willing to teach me, I was already very grateful. Right after that, she brought me to a room. It did not look like a place idols would use. Then I saw her standing there, saying that she had already rented this place, and asking me what I wanted to learn from her. She told me to first show her our group song, so I moved my body along with the rhythm. At that moment, Iru Shah told me to stop. So I sat on the floor and rested for a while. She asked me how long I had been dancing, and after calculating it, I said a little over a month. Not bad. Just judging from the dance alone, you're already fairly skilled. You did not happen to receive special training before, did you?
He smiled ahead.
But there is one strange thing. It feels like you are calculating the movements in your head. Even though you clearly understand them in your mind, when it gets to certain parts, it is still obvious that you hesitate. I can feel that when you dance, your mind is constantly thinking that this part should have a little more force, and that the key point here should be the gesture. I awkwardly scratched my head. I was not suited in the first place for those kinds of cutesy or coquettish moves. The two of us are pretty much the same. Our personalities on stage and off stage are completely like two different people, unless you really have some kind of personality switching button in you. Suddenly, she moved closer to me. Whether it is you or that man named Jim Sangbeep, it seems both of you have gotten one thing wrong. She stood in front of me, and in an instant I felt an intense sense of pressure. I am always sincere about the stage. I have never used being unsuitable as an excuse, and I have never forced you either. If I can do it, why can you not? It seems your sincerity is only this much. Even though I absolutely hate acting cute, I can endure it in order to become an idol. If you came to learn acting from me with that kind of resolve, then it is not impossible. But are you satisfied with just this? If that is the case, then there was no need to call me here on purpose. Why is it that I clearly came here to receive acting guidance, yet it feels like I am getting a lesson in ideology? Hearing her say that, I hurriedly stood up. I really do want this very badly. If I were not sincere, I would never have come to ask you for help. Only I know that in order to become an idol, I was even willing to switch into a woman's body. I also heard there was someone who looked a lot like me, so I came specially to see for myself. With such a pretty face, and yet you keep talking about how it does not suit you. She suddenly reached out and pinched my cheek. She straightened my head and made me face the mirror. Do you usually look in the mirror often? Do you not see yourself every time you practice dancing? Then when you do your makeup and things like that, do you not do it yourself? I told her that I knew a little of the basics, but she still kept staring at my face. You do not really look like the type who is immersed in her own beauty. You look like someone who still has not gotten used to her own face at all. Looking at myself in the mirror, whether making expressions or looking at my reflection, I always felt very awkward. I felt that I was simply not suited for acting cute. Iru Shah turned around. Today's lesson ends here. I stood there, full of confusion. You still have not taught me anything about acting. You have not reached the stage where you can learn acting yet. Then she threw a square object toward me. It turned out to be a hand mirror. Before judging other people, you should first have a clear understanding of yourself. Do you want me to give you a demonstration while I am at it? She directly struck an ultra-cute pose at me. Watching her make a whole series of movements so naturally, I simply could not believe my eyes. Did I look like I was acting just now? A pretty girl should show that she is pretty. Follow my standard and take 100 selfies before you come back. I looked completely incredulous. At that moment, she held out her phone and told me to enter my number, and also said that after I took the pictures, I should send them to her. Holding her phone with trembling hands, I said, "It is not convenient for me to give you my number right now. Could I send the photos to Jim Sangbeep instead and have him pass them along?" She looked at me with a puzzled expression and asked what exactly my relationship with Jim Sangbeep was. Is what kind of relationship I have with that person really that important? That was how the first day of lessons with Iru Shah ended, and right after that came the next lesson. Were you looking in the mirror just now? You did everything I taught you yesterday, right? I stammered and told her to wait a moment first. Then I picked up my phone. The messaging app had been installed, I had joined the fan club, and the selfie list was almost ready too. I did not expect you to help me this seriously. I am really so touched. At that moment, Minji took out her phone and showed me something. Do you not have any social media accounts? Are trainees not banned from using social media? If it is just an account for looking without posting, then it is fine. Then she sent me all of Iru Shah's official accounts. Other than the accounts I sent you, do not search for any private accounts. So I opened the homepage to take a look, and just then, a text message suddenly came. It was Iru Shah checking my homework. When I looked at the screen full of my own selfies, even I felt embarrassed. In order to further enhance her charm, The woman put on a mini skirt for the first time. Just now, I saw a sentence online. Whether you like it or hate it, you have to release your emotions completely. Kaylee suddenly asked me why I had chosen the path of becoming an idol. Thinking back to when I was little, there was once a group I really liked, and what I liked most was how confident they looked when they stood on stage. Only later did I find out that the performance I saw was actually their final activity before announcing their disbandment. Kaylee turned to look at Hyo-jong. Why do you want to become an idol? Blushing, Hyo-jong said that when she was little, she heard from her older cousin that someone had said her voice sounded very nice. Just then, Min-ji called out, "Team, time to rehearse." Before leaving, Kaylee smiled and said to me, "Next time, let's fangirl together." And yet at that very moment, I noticed Jong Soo Ryan beside us. How could she be this quiet? I thought that after what happened yesterday, she would spread some kind of nonsense. After the group rehearsal ended, everyone was analyzing their own shortcomings. "Why are you not picking on me today? Have I improved?" At that moment, Min-ji lowered her head and said, "Were you not doing pretty well yourself?" It really surprised me that she actually praised me. At that moment, I remembered that I still had not sent the selfies to Iru Shah, so I had to hurry and deal with that first. The next day, after I changed back to my original body, Iru Shah came to find me. She told the manager that she was taking me to visit the set, but the moment the words left her mouth, the manager looked utterly incredulous. Before I knew it, I had followed her to the filming location. The staff there were all busily occupied. I stood in a corner, quietly watching everything around me, full of curiosity. Being able to personally see Iru Shah doing her actual work again was indeed a very rare opportunity. The director told her that today's schedule was tight and that it might be a little tiring. When I saw Iru Shah filming and naturally making all kinds of expressions, I truly thought she was amazing. While they were working, I also kept an eye on whether there were any suspicious people nearby. By then, I had already been wandering around the area for an hour. Suddenly, a man in a suit appeared in front of me. When he saw me, his expression was clearly one of shock. I hurriedly told him that I would explain later, then immediately turned and ran off. When I got back to the filming location, I found that Iru Shah had already finished filming and was on a break. Just as I was chatting with her, I suddenly felt as if something had fallen from above, so I quickly raised my arm to block it. It was a bottle of mineral water. Who threw it down from that terrace over there? To find out the truth, I had to go up and check. When I ran onto the terrace, I forcefully pushed open the door, but I found that there were many people coming and going at the scene. So I found the person in charge over there and explained why I had come. After seeing the drink bottle, the person in charge realized it was a brand they drank there and hurriedly apologized to me. Holding the bottle, I asked him whether there had been anyone by the railing just now. It felt to me like someone had thrown it down on purpose, but he told me that it also could have simply been blown off by the wind, and that only authorized personnel could enter this place. There was no other way, so I could only go back first. When I asked the manager whether it was possible to request access to the security footage, she brushed it off, saying that it was not her responsibility. Iru Shah said she was not feeling very well, so she canceled the filming of the self-produced content and said she would go home to rest first. After they all left, I went to the bus stop to catch a bus. Suddenly, someone called out to me from behind. I turned around toward the voice and saw that it was Woo Bo-jun. On the car ride, I asked him to keep today's secret for me. He told me that some time ago, he had a private conversation with Iru Shah. So I asked him what everyone thought of Iru Shah. We had really only chatted about it casually for a few sentences. People at their company should know her better. Even though it is a branch office, I do not know everything about the situation and atmosphere over there. At that moment, I suddenly thought of my relationship with Han Yao-e. If she asks, I will just say it was an interview and brush it off for now. Or I could say that you are preparing to enter the entertainment industry. That way, helping out in private would at least have a proper excuse. Putting it that way, I really do feel like a little sidekick. Han Yao-e is the one active in front of the spotlight, but the shadow pulling the strings behind the scenes is Jim Sang-beep. Playing two faces at the same time is even harder than I imagined. You absolutely have to tell clearly when you're supposed to play which role. I looked at Woo Bo-jun with a blank expression. I once wondered whether, besides me, there might be someone else using the past life medicine. But he smiled and answered that he was already more than satisfied with his own body. What I never expected, though, was that he sprayed perfume on me in the car and dropped me off about 10 minutes away from the company. If anyone saw me getting out of his car, strange rumors would probably start spreading again. That evening, I went to the practice room that Iru Shah had prepared for me. She suddenly brought up Woo Bo-jun and said it felt like there was some kind of connection between them. If a trainee could get to that point, it would already be quite impressive. She also asked me whether he had already started taking care of me in private. Looking at her expression, it seemed like she was overcomplicating things. But right now I was Han Yao-e, so there was no way for me to ask about it. She then asked me whether there was any romantic attraction between me and Jim Sang-beep. With a face like mine, the idea that there could still be pure friendship between a man and a woman sounded like a fantasy. She even said that Jim Sang-beep was interested in me. Hearing that made me feel uncomfortable all over, and I quickly laughed it off, saying that we had known each other for a long time and that it was impossible for us to have that kind of relationship. Right after that, she told me that classes would officially begin starting today. I instinctively tugged at the hem of my skirt. What did making me come in a skirt have to do with class. Looking at how awkward you seem. Do you normally never wear this kind of style? You have to constantly confirm what state you are in right now. I will also study how to further amplify your charm here. That is why I deliberately added some restrictions to the clothing. Honestly, that tracksuit of yours is unbelievably tacky. Then she took out her phone and showed me videos of their previous performances. She told me that there are actually many details on stage. The most basic things are how you use your gaze and every joint in your fingertips. If necessary, even a single strand of hair has to be fully utilized. Only then did I finally understand why she had told me to look in the mirror more often. When I used to look at myself in the mirror, I always felt like the person there was a stranger. But when I made expressions while carrying emotion, every form of expression started to feel natural. Seen that way, her guidance really was very effective. So I picked up my phone and continued watching videos of her past performances. She is a girl who pursues perfection. Although her character has always been the subject of controversy, her ability has been recognized by everyone. The next day, on the way to school, Yuri said that the group members all seemed unable to get along with her. Practice was already stressful enough, and on top of that they still had to drag along dead weight. Yesterday was the first time I saw Sister Sue Ryan cry like that, and there is obviously something wrong with that Hanyao-e girl. At that moment, Minji suddenly turned around and said, "Stop bringing up Sister Sue Ryan, I already have a headache as it is." Yuri stopped herself midway, and no one knew exactly what had happened. When they arrived at the classroom, everyone gathered, and practice was set to begin in 5 minutes. Before long, beautiful music began to fill the classroom. But at this moment, Kyo Teo and I clearly looked out of sorts. Min Ji, standing in front, also noticed that something was wrong with her. "You have been half a beat slow from the very beginning." Bak So-ae walked up at that moment and reached out to touch her forehead. Her forehead was very hot, like she had a fever. "You should stop practicing for now and go to the infirmary to get some medicine." Sue Ryan was worried it would not be safe for her to go alone and wanted to go with her. Just then, Yuri shouted angrily at Sue Ryan, "Why are you going to help another team?
We are still practicing right now."
Sue Ryan only turned back impatiently and said, "I have been listening to you vent for 20 minutes already, so please spare me for these 5 minutes." There were only a few days left before the monthly evaluation, so we had to gather more often than the other teams. Sue Ryan also happened to return at this moment. She had taken Kyo, Teo, and I back to the dorm, so she could rest first. There are only 4 people left on our team now, and the choreography is complicated, so even being short one person throws everything into chaos. Suddenly, Hyo Jong said she had a good idea and that they could ask teacher Ho Jun to fill in. He is absurdly good at dancing girl group choreography. Min Ji said that he had looked a little tired just now. "Sister Yao-e, go ask him and see." I was sitting beside her and was suddenly startled. Why did it have to be me? At this time, teacher Ho Jun was leaning against a chair. He had drunk too much with senior Jarin yesterday and his head was still aching. After that, I went to teacher Ho Jun's office and gently knocked on the door. I stammered as I explained the situation to him, but he said that he was in pretty bad shape right now. But the song we were practicing right now simply could not be arranged properly, with one person missing. At that moment, teacher Ho Jun braced both hands on the desk and struggled to stand up. "Since you have run into trouble, I definitely have to go. I just got up too suddenly and accidentally hit my foot." Just like that, teacher Ho Jun came to the classroom with my support. But compared with the practice from earlier, there was still not much progress. Today, he could only fill in temporarily, and once Kyo Teo and I got better tomorrow, we would practice several more times. Hyo Jong had already seen this kind of situation far too many times. Something always went wrong during group practice. She told everyone not to worry too much about it, and just do what each of us needed to do first. At that moment, I secretly felt delighted because I finally had time to practice singing. But when I arrived at the music room, I found Bak So-e searching around aimlessly for something. Her eyes looked somewhat unfocused. She suddenly leaned in close to me, which really startled me. "Be careful." I dropped my contact lens. So that was it. She really had startled me just now. Right after that, I crouched down to help her look for it. In the corner, I found the contact lens that had fallen on the floor. I almost thought we were not going to find it again. Was her eyesight originally that bad? It seemed like it was the day before the monthly evaluation presentation, when she had also gone out to buy new ones because her contact lens had broken. Bak So-ae looked at me in confusion. "Have we met before?" I am the kind of person who often cannot even recognize the person right in front of me. Sitting on the sofa, she told me that she still had not decided on her signature move and wanted to think while practicing her singing. If you want to truly understand the song, you have to think of a good point of entry. But since there is no specific analysis, all you can do is go over the lyrics again and again. I suddenly thought of how Iru Shah had said something similar to me yesterday. As long as you can express it according to the composer's intention, you will definitely be able to hold it steady. Actually, I have also always had a question when singing this song. Looking only at the lyrics, it can be understood as a sly girl singing a love song to someone she likes while pretending it is only a joke. So my personal interpretation is that she hopes the other person will notice, but because that person shows no reaction at all, a crack slowly begins to open in her heart. She falls for them alone, and her illusion shatters alone, and that feeling keeps repeating itself. Listening to Bak So-ae say so much beside me, I did not know how to respond for a moment. I did not expect it to be even more more complicated than I had imagined. When singing this song, you really do have to pour your emotions into it properly. Seeing that it was already getting late outside, Bok So-ae got ready to head back first. Before she left, I said to her, I thought you had really disliked me all this time, but I am truly happy that we could talk together like this today. I think my relationship with Miss Yao-e is actually quite close. Not the way you said, as if I disliked you. If we could also chat naturally like this in the future, that would be nice. Bok So-ae came closer to me and said with a smile, You're pretty cute. I am starting to feel more and more that you are completely different from when I first met you. I thought you were the cold and distant type. The moment her words fell, my face instantly turned red all the way down to my neck. Then she left, leaving only me standing awkwardly in the hallway. As Bok So-ae was walking along the road, she saw a beautiful woman walking straight toward her from ahead. When she got closer, she realized it was Irusha. It was already so late, so what was she doing here? Irusha told her that she was helping a friend prepare to enter the entertainment industry. But the moment she said the name Jim Sang-beep, Bok So-ae froze on the spot and could not recover for a long while. Was she really going to become the company's substitute? At that moment, Irusha pushed open the practice room door and walked in. Why do you look so absent-minded? I quickly asked her whether she still needed my number now. I told her that Han Yu-yun had taken care of it for me this morning in the company's name. It has already been this long before you finally came to exchange contact information with me. It seems your thoughts have changed a little. Haven't you only been a trainee for a short while? As long as someone knows even a little about the idol world, they would know that my image is not considered very good. I looked up at her, and her mental fortitude really was far beyond ordinary. That made me think of what Bok So-ae had told me. A sincere heart that has been seen through eventually turns into the sorrow of covering it up with shamelessness. A kind of defense mechanism. Actually, I have not known you for very long either. So, even though you know almost nothing about me, you still agreed to let me teach you? What artist would be willing to help with this kind of troublesome matter? No matter what the rumors outside say, I am truly very grateful to you. Then she told me that the reason she agreed to Jim Sang-beep was because I lacked confidence in facial acting. Likewise, she was not someone who could do nothing at all. She also told me that she was not suited to group activities. Rather than leave things to unreliable competitors, it was better to solve them with her own hands. So the girl group I had always longed for had already been in the plans for a long time. No wonder she was so familiar with Woo Bo-jun. Maybe in the future, I might even end up in the same group as her. And they might even make her, someone who already has name recognition, the center, with the group's concept and image all designed around her. So the girl group the company wanted to create had originally been built to match Irusha. No wonder Jong Soo-ryan had always been imitating Irusha. At that moment, she leaned close to my ear and whispered, The company is not planning to treat you as a substitute, is it? Only at that moment did I suddenly realize why, even until now, I knew almost nothing about Irusha. Back when her program aired and became hugely popular, I had dropped out of school because of school violence, and I spent all day holed up at home doing nothing, only lying around. I had cut off all contact with the outside world, because even just seeing anything related to idols would make me feel anger, sadness, and heartache. If the me from back then had been able to watch the program she performed on, would I not have become the way I am now? The next morning, when we gathered in the practice room, we found that Yuri's team had already started practicing early in the morning. Kyo Teo and I had also come to rehearsal, as usual today. After several rounds of practice, everyone noticed that Kyo Teo and I still looked completely listless. At that moment, Hyo-jong came close to me and said that you could tell from the recording that Kyo Teo and I was already unable to keep up with our rhythm. If we kept practicing like this, by the day of the monthly evaluation, her body would only get worse. I really wanted to go talk to her, but in terms of skill and seniority, even if I voiced my opinion, it would not be very convincing. Better to stay silent for now. I had thought Min-ji would say these things for me, but I did not expect that Min-ji would actually say that today's practice would end here, and then head straight for the door. At the moment she was about to open the door, I stepped forward and pressed down on the doorknob. She looked at me in confusion. What, do you have some complaint? I know that if I say this now, I will definitely be criticized, but someone has to say it. Since no one else is willing to speak up, then let me be the one to pour cold water on this. Is everyone planning to keep sitting around like this? Or am I the only one who already does not want things to go on like this anymore? Min-ji looked at me in shock. Why have you suddenly become like this? What exactly are you dissatisfied with? Because no one could blame sick Kyo Teo and I. Things had ended up like this, and no one wanted to completely ruin the atmosphere either. At that moment, I also realized that my words had been too harsh, but if I did not act a little tougher, they definitely would not pull together. Weren't you originally the kind of person who spoke plainly when you had something to say? So why are you pretending to be soft-hearted now instead? Min-ji instantly showed a helpless expression. Then what exactly do you want me to do? So I directly asked Kyo Teo and I, since when have you been feeling unwell? As it turned out, she had already been feeling bad 3 days ago. Even if she recovered before the monthly evaluation, she still could not train normally right now. Then tell me directly what you're thinking now. There is no problem with the group dance itself. The main issue is that from the latter half of the repeated movements, my stamina gets drained little by little and my rhythm starts to slow down. At that moment, A bold idea suddenly came to me. Move Kyo Teo and I to the back and have her just stand there and sing. That way it would not look too strange, and her stamina could last until the end. I will take over the solo dance part. That way, even if there is not much practice time left later, I can handle the difficulty. But at this moment, Minji still did not really support my idea. With no other choice, I could only say to her that because I did not want to be called the team's burden, I had long since memorized all the moves. It looked like now they could finally come in handy. If you do not believe me, I can prove it to you right now. For a moment, everyone fell silent, and no one dared come to a conclusion so easily. After everyone discussed it, half of the plan I proposed was handed over to Minji. That afternoon, there was a midterm check, and everyone performed according to the revised formation. Other than So Ae and Hyojong, everyone else could clearly see that the formation had changed. Kyo Teo and I kept blaming herself for not managing her physical condition properly. After the check ended, the atmosphere on site was much better than before. After the midterm check ended, I went over to the vending machine and took a can of soda. But when I opened it and took a sip, I found that the taste seemed a little off. Had the drink gone bad, or was it because of changes in my body? But from the beginning until now, my taste clearly had never changed. Forget it, I should stop drinking it. What a waste, to throw it away after only one sip. At that moment, Cha Gong-won suddenly stood next to me and said, "You can just give it to me." I shot him a sideways glance. Then I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there with a stunned expression. He suddenly shouted from behind me, "Wait a second." Then he immediately chased after me. But who could have expected that in the very next moment, a sensation like an electric shock would suddenly hit me. He actually grabbed my wrist from behind, causing me to cry out. He suddenly realized that he might have grabbed too hard. I turned back and glared at him viciously. With a sincere look on his face, he said to me, "I came to apologize to you. I was too rude on the rooftop before, but just now I grabbed you again. Did that make your impression of me even worse?" I had not really taken that matter too much to heart in the first place, but honestly, hearing his voice was really far too seductive. I quickly said to him that day I had been too sensitive in my reaction. Because of some personal matters, I had been in a bad mood. Suddenly, at that moment, I remembered the things I had heard yesterday. So I tactfully said to Cha Gong-won, "There is something I would like to ask you, senior. Could I talk with you alone for a moment?" Unexpectedly, he agreed very readily. "Should we go talk over there?" As he said that, he pointed in the direction of the emergency exit. I asked with some confusion, "Why do we have to go specifically to the emergency stairwell? Back on the rooftop before, were you not especially worried about being seen by other people?" "No need to worry, no one usually comes here. So there is no need to be afraid of being found out. Why were you avoiding me just now?" Why did he have to ask exactly that? I was so nervous that my palms were almost sweating, and I could only stammer out a reply, "Because I was shy." But he burst out laughing. "I did not expect you to react to that extent. Being disliked by an unmatched beauty is also a fresh kind of experience. No matter what your motive is, from the moment you took the initiative to talk to me, today had already reached its ending." I looked at his calculating face and sneered inwardly. "I know what you are scheming. Did you really think I would not be able to see through it? This time, no matter what, I had to endure this awkwardness. I absolutely had to find a way to get information about Iru Sha out of him. But what I never expected was that at this moment, both of us were actually harboring our own thoughts. Let us just sit down here on the stairs. If we keep standing while talking, our legs will get tired." Unexpectedly, he actually took off his jacket and spread it over the steps. After that, we just chatted casually for a few sentences. At that moment, I turned back and asked him, "Do you know someone like Senior Iru Sha well?" He quickly waved his hands at me. "We have hardly ever spoken. I feel like I do not really get along with her, and she is not my type either." At first, I also thought she would probably be easy to get along with. But later, from what I heard from the staff and the people at the shop, her image was not very approachable to begin with, and according to the rumors, the real situation is even worse than that. The topic had finally, just as I wished, slowly turned to Iru Sha. But why did hearing these words make me feel a little uncomfortable? Could it be because lately I had been spending more time with her? Looking at you, it feels like you are not that kind of person with a bad personality either. I heard that because of some recent events, she has been in a rather sensitive state and no longer has the energy to care about the people around her. Actually, the rumor I heard was that some people said she had orchestrated those things herself. But why did he have to choose this critical moment? Could it be that he wants to leave the idol world? I stared at him in disbelief. Maybe he just lost interest while doing it, or maybe he felt that this job did not suit him at all. If you think about it that way, it is not impossible to understand. Is it because you take this profession too lightly that you can say something like that? You climb to this position so easily that you think other people can obviously do the same? The moment the words left my mouth, I suddenly realized that I might have been too emotional. He thought for a moment, if someone were just doing this for fun, then I really would have nothing to say. But even if things are a little hard right now, I have never once thought about giving up. As for the very beginning, it was probably because of a friend. Although I do not know whether that guy ever really considered me a friend. Do you remember the owner of the wallet I picked up? He is also an idol trainee, and he is even from the same academy. The topic had actually come around to me. He is very good at both singing and dancing, but he always wears a sour expression. Still, living with a face like that, if it were me, I probably would not be able to stay in a good mood every day either. But among everyone I have ever met, he is the most hardworking. Was what he said sincere? Or was it only because he was standing in front of a woman and wanted to maintain his image?